Brandon, welcome back to another countercultural conversation. It's good to see you.
Likewise, Mark. It's good to be back.
How you been?
Doing all right. Doing all right. Another day. No, well, I don't know about dollars. We don't make much money in this.
Yeah, right. There is an accounting of sorts, I do believe. It's a different type of currency.
Yeah.
Goodwill, social equity,
Treasures in
intellectual.
heaven.
Yes,
Ultimately, I mean, I don't think
yes,
you and I are going to see a lot of what we put out there. Is like, really, that one affected somebody. Uh,
right.
but
Well,
it's the fact that we put an effort and energy into
put an effort. Yeah.
trying to help explain it to folks and make it. I had a lady message me today, and at this point, dude, I know this sounds incredibly rude. I have to just
What
block people who are still going into the Christ consciousness crap.
are
And when
you?
they
Yeah.
sent me the link, I watched like 5 seconds in. Then I went back to their profile and I'm like, "You're a New Ager. How
Hmm.
is it that New Agers are still following me?" And I think part of the problem is like I can condemn it in an inscription,
Yeah.
but unless I like break down per slide what a New
Yeah.
Ageism is, people don't know how to grasp it, and that's the saddest thing. Where I'm like, you know what, God, I'm sorry. There's some people like I know I've seen this face following me for a while, and I was just
Hmm.
going, nah. Why are you following me if you've not learned anything, and now you're going to start some kind
The
of thing about your consciousness evolving? Yeah,
yeah.
I was like, I.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, so they sometimes send you things. What do they expect? Like, why do you think she sent it to you? Just for I mean,
Well, there's like thanks, Brandon, for always being supportive. And at first, I was thinking it was a bot, and then I was like, wait, never know, I've seen this face before. So like, so I know some
mm,
bots are like, hey, my girlfriend thought you're really cute. Click on my, my profile, or the DM her, and I'm over here like, yeah, no, that's not
yeah.
gonna happen. But this one, I was like, okay, no, you actually have seen you before. And I think honestly, some people are inspired, but they don't
Mm,
understand anything that I'm talking about. Or when I condemn such things, they're over here like it goes right over their heads. And I'm like,
yeah.
there's another guy. He was sending, and this is not trying to be a bash session, but he was sending me something from a guy that I've seen a lot of people send to me, and I was going, I like what he says, but then I looked up his profile, and it has a hard time for me that he's a dispensationalist because he has the particular flag of the only country that starts with an I,
Yeah.
ends with an L. And if you're thinking dispensationalism, New Age, or prosperity gospel, I don't even give you the time of day.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, that's wasting my time, and that is also a doctrine that is ultimately. I don't care because like, well, he's bashing the church. I'm like, cool, but if your doctrine or one of your ideologies, your theology, is still being promoted, and you're ignoring the atrocities of what's happening to other, again, part of the gospel is the golden rule, and the golden rule is ultimately love your neighbor as yourself. That sounds like humanitarian to me,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Spiritually speaking, I want to even go further to the golden rule. And we're going to get to the roots and try to convert your soul to submit to Creator God, because I think that's ultimately, I want to see you part of the heavenly branch, the tree of life, if you
Hmm.
will.
Yeah.
So when I see somebody like that and they're sending them, I'm just like, this is the problem. You're following a big name, but because even myself, I am condemning the ideology. You'll message back. You're not like, stop sending me stuff because you don't know me. And when I
Yeah.
try to explain it to you, it goes right over your head again.
They're not ready. Yeah. They're yeah.
It's
Because
like if for me,
yeah. Go ahead.
I'll say this and I'll throw it back to you. We as Christians at this point in time have to set some standards. And I'm sorry if it sounds cruel. I'm sorry if I sound like a mean
No,
parent
that's
saying
valid.
you have your candy before you have your main course. I'm telling you, we got to start setting some boundaries and parameters and focusing on things, because that's not it. Sending
Yeah.
me your favorite speaker or celebrity or whoever, even with stuff with my stuff, if you're not getting it, stop sending it. Right? Make
Hmm.
sure you first master, again, like we were talking about with Aikido. First, you get to your level, and then you
Hmm.
try to show somebody. That's
Yeah.
my heart. I don't know.
No, I mean, and that makes
Excuse
sense.
me.
I mean, there does have to be standards and certain criteria to, that we have to go through life by, and it has to be, and it doesn't have to be mean or rude. It can be like, I'm, I don't believe in that. I'm past that. It's not part of my thing. and it does not a judgment. We're all on this, learning
Coaster.
coaster, yeah, learning roller coaster. I mean, we were talking before we started here about coming through, you know, patriotism, nationality, borders, and things like that. And I myself walked through those, and now I look back and the evolution. I'm like, oh, I can see it clearly where you've come from, but it does
Right.
take. It's a continual process, as learning, investigating, learning, assimilating, growing. It's for me, it just is like, it's continual,
Well,
you know.
right. And to veer to veer into what we're talking about with relationships, there's this one gal that I know. She's a journalist. Okay. She's in the military. Okay. Deals with intel and a lot of statistics and all this stuff. Three, you claim to be a Christian. So I'm seeing her and she's posting all this stuff about what's going on the border. She's posting, human trafficking's bad, this stuff with, China and BRICS alliance. And I'm going, okay, I have sent you dialect links of what's going on in Israel. And for me, the hypocrisy is starting to show itself because, okay, you're against human trafficking. Yes, yes. Okay. But you haven't said anything about the tunnels in New York City
Yeah.
under the synagogue. You haven't said anything about Epstein's employer. Epstein does not sound like an Arabian name, does it? That's just
Mm.
going off of basic. But when you press a little further, you'll find your culprit and you know who his employers were. Okay. All right. And then finally, we're talking about passages in the Talmud, but you just somehow ignore that because Sharia law, whatever.
Yeah.
Like that's what you zero in and focus on. And I'm telling you, as somebody who's supposed to be either military, journalistic, or Christian, that these are things that are going on, and you're suddenly going, you don't understand any of it, or you're
Yeah.
intentionally ignoring it, which means you're biased, and therefore your biasness is connected directly to racism
Yep.
or dispensationalism
Yeah.
and how to
What you're
see
like,
the world.
what is it? You're ignoring this. Why are you ignoring it? Let's get it out. There's a
Well,
reason.
ignoring it because you say, on one hand, I'm against this.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
But are you against another area that touches into the same thing? And you're over here like, well, no, no. My pastor, what would he say if I started going down that route? No, no, no. Or whatever subconscious thing is going on
Yeah.
in your
There,
brain.
she's people are sometimes in a little box. They can't get
You
out of the
put your
box.
you're putting yourself in that box because I have
Yeah.
sent links now directly, and at a certain point, dude, it's like I can't even follow you
Yeah.
because you're literally the epitome of hypocrisy. I am trying to educate some people, and you're intentionally, no, I don't want to know about that. Or,
Yeah.
and I'm over here going, you know what? It's at a certain point where it's like, this is part of the thing when we're talking about relationships. I've seen this a lot with women is that when guys were giving our advice or we're saying we're watching something like Emily what's her face on Instagram and we're saying like yeah somebody who's advocating finally for the guy's perspective on this and we hear immediately a woman type yeah but if man we're not
Hmm.
talking about but if man we have enough of that we deal with
Yeah.
toxic masculinity fill in the blank with
Yeah.
whatever have you we're talking about you okay no no
Hmm.
no that's part of the problem is the minute you're confronted even if you're not related to this particular incident, you immediately throw a boomerang of
Yeah.
responsibility back at the other person. You know what I'm saying? I don't know
Yeah.
about myself, but as a man, some of us have evolved and I was like, where's all the good men at? At a certain point, we just said, we're done playing that game, this mind game, this expectation game, this cultural, whatever have you thrown upon us. And
Yeah.
we're saying, I'm going to dedicate myself into my books and my work
Yeah.
because I ain't got time for that BS. I would like to meet a person like that someday. Meantime, I'm working on myself. And this goes back into what we said before. Now the guys have actually got it. I need to work on myself, and they've become perfect
Yeah.
and as good as a man can get. And we're
Hmm.
still scrutinized for you're not good enough.
Yeah.
That's the
Well,
problem. You're trying to tell me what a man is, and you're a woman, right?
yeah, it's fantastic that you said that, Brandon, because I do feel I've seen it in my own life and I've seen it in, a lot of places, is that men have kind of come to this realization that, like you just said, they will never be good enough in women's eyes, not all, but a lot. And so they're like, okay, I'm not even going to try. I'm not even going to go down that road. Like, it's not even worth me going down that road because I, somehow, some way, and men have gotten men have been manipulated too, and psyop too, but women have gotten so twisted, again, it goes both ways, that and so out of like just losing their minds, and it's like they've been put up on pedestal for so much, and it's
Yeah,
just men are finally just done. They're like, okay, this isn't worth it. I'm going to go invest my time in something that is worth it,
right.
until this thing gets fixed. And we talked about this before. Men have work to do, women have work to do. And
Mhm.
now I think what's happening in the world is you're seeing it more pronounced. If someone isn't doing the work, you're going to see it more nowadays than more than ever, because this what's happening is like the branch, it's splitting off. You're people that are doing self-introspection, reading, learning, understanding, assessing situations, correcting themselves, and those that are not. And the gap, the chasm is going to grow wide
Mhm.
between those two groups. That's what I think.
Well, I was chuckling because like the etymology for like men literally means of the mind. It's like another root part of the word mental.
Yes.
We are supposed to be logical. We are supposed to be thinking and doing all the big picture, and you're supposed to be more domestic and helping us fix where we might have missed some things and consider some aspects that we haven't considered and stuff like that. Like I've said before, one of the reasons God made you beautiful is that we have something nice to come back to after dealing with an ugly world, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't that sound really nice? Yeah, because when I
Yeah.
say beautiful, I'm saying in comparison to what I dealt with today, it's nice to come back to something peaceful and
Hmm.
serene. And in contrast, what I'm seeing, like especially in this emerging culture with like Andrew Tate's and whatnot, they're trying to substitute sleep around and have multiple women, multiple cars. It's materialistic based. And I'm over here
Hmm.
going, that's not teaching me to be a man. And thank God I didn't know who he was until he got arrested, like what, 2, 3, 4 years ago, wherever it was. I was like, this is the thing people are following. And
Yeah.
why? Because again, a lot of them are grifting off of societal loopholes or the things
Yeah.
that they've created that they're sweeping up the remnants and trying to create a patriarchy quote unquote system where
Yeah.
the guy you do get is a narcissist, blah blah blah. But they don't seem to realize sometimes a guy who has standards or is trying to implement godly morals and values in the home, that's not narcissism. That's me trying to take on the I'm going up against the world, and I'm
Yeah.
trying to implement a family that follows God and only Him. And you're getting mad at me because I'm canceling out your traditionalism.
Yeah.
And that book I was reading, How to Spot a Fascist, again, little title of the book, you guys want to look it up. I can't remember. It's Umbretto or something like that. And he was saying part of the thing with fascists is people cling so much to traditionalism. And I literally had to highlight that because I was like, Kabbalah, traditionalism, traditions of men, right there.
Hmm.
Modern sense from Mussolini, living under Mussolini. I said, this is the culture we're living in, is people are advocating more so traditionalism, what everybody, feminism. They're giving
Hmm.
us that interpretation of what we should be supporting as opposed to what about the man, right? We're always treating him like a pedestal. We can treat him like a princess, da, 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 da. But what about the man? We don't talk about that.
Mm-mm.
Instead,
There always has to be something imposed. There always has to be an ideology imposed
right?
to wash out the foundational ideology of male female ideology.
Well, right. And I'm chuckling because I see this all the time everywhere. Oh, we need porn is ruining our society and our marriages. Porn, blah 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 blah. Blah. And I'm over here going, okay, let's pause right there. Why are guys gravitating towards that area?
Hmm.
And I don't see Charlie Kirk or your Ben Shapiro or whoever. Another thing they were saying in that book is that they always talk about real things, but they're irrelevant. Like they'll
Hmm.
post the news, they'll talk about all this stuff, and it's distraction. It's itty bitty little things, but we don't get to the root.
Yeah,
Stop
they
that
dance around
branch.
the yeah.
Yeah, because like if you ever have a sumac tree, if you try to cut it in half and you don't go up for the roots, it keeps growing back, and it grows back
Hmm.
thicker and stronger. This is very similar to what I'm seeing with
Hmm.
this problem. So it's like, okay, yes, is it bad? Sure. The biggest thing is why are they gravitating towards that? Well, we live in a culture where if you try to flirt with somebody in the workplace, you go to HR, right? And you're
Yep.
saying, you want me to be assertive in 1 minute, the next minute I am assertive, and you're saying, well, that's creepy harassment. And yet I literally see you fall for the same freaking guy at a camp. Again, this is from my perspective. I'll see you them fall for the same exact guy at camp or the same line at camp, and I'm going, Okay, so
Yeah.
it's a bias scale. You know what I'm saying? If there's a
Yep.
definitive bias scale, and you're doing that to throw out the ones you don't want, but then the guy becomes punished. So what does the other people see who have observed this? They go and become online digital warriors because in a world today, we can't say, you know what, sir, I challenge you to a duel, and no,
Hmm.
that's assault. That being assertive is an assault. But
Yeah.
we know
Toxic
for
masculinity.
Right. We know for a fact that men are supposed to be defensive. They're supposed to fight for what they want. And every freaking dating thing, you look out there. I like a guy that's actually assertive, blah, blah, blah. And I may not say it, but I
Yeah.
ultimately like somebody that's
Secretly.
actually fighting
Yeah.
for me. Like a Knight's Tale, tell
Yeah.
him if he loves me, he'll lose for me. And then once he starts losing all this time, says, she said, she's updated it, says, if you love her, you'll win the match. She's like, would she make up her freaking mind?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is the culture that we're living in, dude, and they're blaming the guy, but it's like the guy is gravitating towards the porn outlet because it
Hmm.
is his only his normal source of letting him express himself.
Yeah.
His normal venue has been cut off because it's a dog mom culture I have to go up against.
Yep.
I don't want that, and I hate to tell you this, ladies, you kind of lost your clock after 28, right? You are starting to devolve. A man at his 30s or something like that, he's starting to evolve. And this is the ironic part, is that even younger women will be like, well, he's kind of got his things together compared to the Chad over here who's still playing
Hmm.
video games and doing stupid stuff. And I'm saying, like, he hasn't evolved himself as a man intellectually, hasn't gotten his roots down, doesn't really have a house. You know, this is
Yeah.
this is what I'm seeing. I'm not sure about yourself. What do you think there?
Well, yeah, well, I see it going both ways. They've inverted women and made women masculine, and they've made men feminine. And so
Mm,
we've basically swapped, they've through the education system, through culture, through society, through movies, like you talked about, they've basically
yeah.
feminized men and masculinized women, and then both sexes look at the other sex and go, I'm not attracted to you. And men look at women and go, I'm not attracted to you. And women look at men and go, I'm not attracted to you. So we've got to go back to our camps, regroup, rethink, reconnect with men need to be masculine, women need to be feminine. And that's the only way out. And I do see it, but it's going to require some work.
Or even the mindset. I often think of this passage in Timothy. It says the men teaching the younger men and the older women
Mm,
teaching the younger women. Or is it Titus? Sorry, I think it's Titus. And it does make me scratch my head because, as you just said, that's the problem. Is women are determining what a man is because of the digital social media, right?
mm,
Or I become independent, and if I have a degree, right, I'm just as equal as a man and I have the right to treat, and I'm not saying that's bad. The problem is we're not having other men vet other men as to what a man
mm.
is. So you might have
Yeah.
daddy issues. You might have freaking, I don't really know what a healthy relationship looks like. And so you do go into finding a guy that's just like that. And he was a crap guy. It's like, you need to have a healthy outlook of saying, hey, could you vet this person for me? What's your 2 cents on it? Like, my birth mom was even
Hmm.
asking me when she got out, she was dating this guy, and she asked me my opinion on him. And I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna give you my real,
Interesting.
and I did. I said I don't like him.
Hmm.
I didn't sugarcoat it. I told her, I said, these are several points. These are other things that I have heard about him adding to his character. I said I don't really appreciate it. I think it's a bad influence in your life. She's not dating the guy, but
Hmm.
she asked my opinion, and I think it's
That's
healthy.
big. Yeah, that's healthy.
It's healthy. And for me, yeah, it is a little bit of a form of respect, but at the same time, for me, it's like I care about your well-being. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? So if I'm telling you those pills are making you loopy, and I think you're getting depressed based off of the amount that I don't care what your doctor's telling you, but it's like I personally think that you're getting more depressed seeing you on that. And then that's
Hmm.
another thing. Like I would be bold. I would say it right to their face. Because for
Yeah.
me, Mark, I can't sit there and be silent.
No.
And I'm looking at a culture where it's like, Victoria's Secret, I hate to tell you this, your model probably has a ding dong. What?
Yeah.
I've seen
You
some of these
never know
videos and
these
I'm
days.
going,
Yeah.
oh, gross. That's just disgusting. But again, this
Hmm.
is what they look up to. And then, dude, the biggest thing I'm seeing is you're claiming to be Christian, but when I look on a profile or something, it's butt tilt selfies. You're
Yeah.
taking pictures of your waist down or
Yeah.
something like that. And I'm going, don't tell me you don't know them how a guy's mind works. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because 1 minute, if that was your underwear, you might be freaking out. But because it's a bikini, somehow it's totally justifiable. And you're willing to go
Yeah.
strutting down the freaking beach, and it's totally fine. You know, like for me, dude, it's literally come to the point where it's like, how do you think they get people like models or whatnot to go into these rooms and do whatnot?
Hmm.
Or how they get into this mindset that it's okay, or they start you following somebody like a Haktua girl.
Yeah.
I'm like, really? And it's so easy for them to do that. And you want to know why? Because we peddle, we say like, oh, women don't be men, that's all men, that's all men. No, that's women too.
Yep.
You know the ability of
They
your
play the
body.
game.
Right.
Hmm.
It's like there wouldn't be such an industry of strippers, porn,
Oh yeah.
OnlyFans, only
OnlyFans. Yeah.
you wouldn't have this generate so much if there
Mm-mm.
wasn't such a funnel, such a like you ignite some embers of like, I can make money off of my body. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you get like, oh, you're being toxic because you asked me a question at the gym. I hate to tell you this, dude, and I read
Yeah.
this and I was chuckling because I think it's 100% accurate. Is that if you started segregating gyms to be female and male, you would see a huge decline in female gym membership.
Oh, sure.
Because part of the
Sure.
reason you're there is, again, and I was dating some girl, and she
To
was over here saying
be
she likes
seen.
going. Yeah, she likes going because she gets attention.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so you literally just admitted to me you're going to a venue to literally get people to look at your body.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you follow what I'm saying, dude? It's like, stop telling me that's not what you want when this is what you do. And
Yeah.
there's also an industry that seems to gravitate towards off of people like yourself.
Hmm.
Mind boggling. Mind boggling.
It is mind-boggling. I think it's nearing the frenzy is becoming heightened. I mean, and it's also nearing burnout. I mean, when you're seeing some of the stunts, we won't go into details, but some of these publicity stunts in the debauchery of OnlyFans, it's getting so dark and so twisted that even people that are centrist, middle of the road, that kind of were indifferent before, they're like, "Oh, that's so gross." Like, I mean,
Right.
but I think it has to get, sometimes for the balance to swing back, it's going to get so bad that the majority of people in the middle are going to be like, okay, I'm done, tapping out, you know, those people will be ostracized. I really do believe it can't keep going like that. I mean,
Well, I
what's
think
next,
I think a lot of liberals are starting to gravitate more towards centralism.
I do too.
And I think a few, I'm not saying all, but there's a few Christians that are going, he's horrible. This is worse than Biden.
Yeah. Yeah,
And I think that's the healthy group.
I do
And as
too.
I don't think we're going to go a full 180. What I do think is the group that starts funneling into, I'm a centrist, I don't do this side, that side, and you're not throwing your allegiance to the state and or a politician. That is going to be the group that they say, all right this way, we're going to chop you up because you're a problem.
Hmm.
Because I'm done playing your stupid game.
Yeah.
Yes, because
Yeah.
I want things to go back to normal and I don't want the government to tell me what is normal or the solution.
Hmm.
That I don't want to do digital ID, that I don't want to have AI special elixirs for 2030 to help me cure my cancer.
Yeah.
No, I don't do that, good sir. Well, then you're gonna have to go through the McDonald's meat grind and we put you in a burger. It's like, well, okay.
Yeah, people, that people are going to be, yeah, they've drawn a line in the sand, and more people are literally like, I'm not playing the game anymore because I see through your stupid little, psyops,
Shenanigans. Yeah.
and your, yeah, people see through it, and they're like, no, I'm not going to play with the game. Do what you will. I'm done.
Yes.
And I will tell everyone I know about you, because then it comes down to, this is what's so wild. I mean, this is what's so weird about our world. It's so inverted. It's like, okay, if you see something, say something.
Mm.
And I get why people don't believe it, because it's so absurd. We talked about this before. There's no file folder in many people's brain for my government might be hosing me over, or my church might be hosing me over, which is ironic because those are the two entities historically that have hosed over people the most. But because there's no file folder, you can say, hey, if you see something, say something. Hey, these guys are bad, and here's the reasons why. Here's the resources. Here's the, go check it out. many people won't go do it because they don't want to know, but again, if we're a social animal and you're like, hey, uh there's danger over here, here, and here, watch
Mhm.
yourself over there, and people don't take your counsel, it's like, I tried to tell you, but I love you, but what else can I do other than force you? I'm not going to force you to not go over there.
So I'm not going to be like, I'm not going to stoop to the enemy's levels to make
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
agree
I'm
with
not
me.
gonna mind. I'm not gonna mind control you or MK Bluebird, Mockingbird, whatever it is. I'm just gonna tell you, be careful of those people. Here's why. You
Well,
know.
as you just said, both pulpit and podium propaganda has dictated what goes on for centuries.
Yeah, it's
And in
so
the book
wild.
Rulers of Evil, they were saying that they were noticing that it was sometimes easier to reach an audience via entertainment as it was through the pulpit.
Yeah.
Now, if we're dispensationalists and a lot of these nationalist ideologies that have crept into Christianity, they're over here looking at you going, well, we have the Christian flag on stage and it's right next to the American flag. We fight for
Yeah.
the rights of Christian brothers and sisters all over the world. And it's like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to go after children. Well, not all of our targets are children. All. Yeah, but that
Yeah.
is the majority. And we watch shows, dude. Like, what was it? The Lioness one that just came out on Paramount Plus with that Tyler Sheridan from Yellowstone, and
Mm.
they literally ended it. And they, ironically, the guy that they got, Bassem, the comedian that Elon
Yeah.
kicked off of Twitter, he was the head bad guy, the financier of terrorists.
Really.
Yeah, he was the final guy that they took out at the end of the thing, and she literally says, "I just killed a guy in his freaking boxer shorts in a kitchen." It says, "We just started the next generation of terrorists."
Mm.
Like, like, yeah, this for me, I was like, they literally just told us in a show again. It's like another thing where they're talking about technology. What do I need that for? And technology ends up controlling you. Now she just said it literally in a show, and I'm going, guys, even in entertainment, they're telling us. Like, this is the series of
Yeah.
Andor. They were talking about a genocide on this thing called Gorman or whatever, and I'm watching it, and I'm going, dude, this is literally Gaza. This is literally Gaza.
Yeah.
And we're over
Yeah.
here going, oh, isn't this so entertaining watching Star Wars? It's like,
Yeah.
you
They've
idiot.
been they've been doing that for a long time, and I didn't used to
Yes.
see it, to once you see it, then you see exactly, because once you see behind the curtain, and all these movies have been basically predictive programming what we're going through now, and all of the dark, twisted CIA movies and the just bizarro movies. I don't watch them anymore for a number of years, because I don't want that in my brain. I don't want it in my
Right.
mind. It's
Right.
so dark and so sick.
It's dark, but then I'm reading comments, and the guy says, Andor was the first season that made me start rooting for the rebels as opposed to the Empire. I was always voting for the Imperial.
Mm.
And I'm going,
Wow.
bro, it's right. And I'm over here going, okay, hold up.
Wait,
So
did
you
you just say
like
that?
Darth Vader? Yeah, I'm like Darth Vader, Imperialist bucket heads. They're just doing it because it's good for the Empire. You don't question
Yeah.
orders. Like again, I was breaking this down. I had interaction with a police officer, and I'm thinking to myself, this is going through my head. You are the only job description that literally has force in your job title.
Mm,
Enforcement. Like you're forcing yourself upon your definition. Well, I didn't sign the law. If you got a problem, talk to the politician, but you're the enforcer. So
yeah.
what? You just like to be an autonomous robot? I don't know why. This is just what I'm circuit programmed to fulfill at this
Yeah.
current time in my life. It's like, um, so you're an autonomous robot. You just do. We're the soldier. My first order is to obey all orders. Those aren't the words of a free man,
Yeah.
credence of a
Yeah.
slave. So I'm looking at these people being like, you're road pirates for the fact that you don't even seem to realize you're basically a privateer for your
Yeah.
military industrial
Under
complex.
the guise
Yeah.
of, for national or
Well, I'm doing it for
nationality or
I'm doing it for your
patriotism.
protection and your safety. And here's the
Yeah.
thing, dude. If it was actually a decent society and everybody was able to protect themselves without having to go through the rigmarole of going through such a process of getting
Hmm.
said means to defend oneself, you're now again, well, you wouldn't do that because you're going to call the cops anyway, right? It's like, well, I wouldn't have to call the cops if I had the ability to defend myself. But in the state of Connecticut, for instance, I can't shoot the intruder without possibly going to jail myself unless he is blocking
Hmm.
my only means of escape. Huh?
Hmm.
How does that sound right? He's in my house. Yeah,
Yeah.
but Unless he's blocking your only means of exit, you have no right to open fire and kill the guy.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying? Like we put a
Yeah.
cap even on our
The
defense.
laws are skewed.
Yes, and it's like, you know what? I'll help you hide the body. Yes, I just said that live on air. I'm serious, dude.
Mhm.
It's come to the point where it's like that's incredibly stupid. And I wouldn't have to call the cops if,
Mhm.
I'm kind of done of people
Yeah.
telling me back to blue, and I'm like, they're 1 star. They literally wear 1 star.
Mhm.
That's their review. And they're wearing Babylonian blue because they're
Yeah.
enforcing the New World Order. Ever so
Yeah.
gradually, ever so marginally. And now Trump's giving them technology. I think it was April
Oh
20,
yeah, their
28th,
technology is off the hook.
military grade weaponry. And
That's
he's
been for a while.
amping up the military, I think, defense in 2026.
Yeah.
I'm going, why are we getting so militaristic? Why are you going to give them full immunity? What are you planning,
Yeah.
good sir?
Yeah.
And you'll notice a lot of people who've been abused, like my buddy Brian, they become a cop
Yeah. There's a mentality, and
or some kind of mental, yeah, group. And I'm
yeah.
like, you know what? I'm kind of worried about some of you now because in order to catch a criminal, you have to think like a criminal.
Yeah.
And there was a
Yeah.
time where I was, I like Criminal Minds. I like this kind of stuff because there was a time where, I was kind of probably in the bad phase of my thinking, but it was over here
Hmm.
going, yeah, but imagine if you could catch other ones. It's like culling out the competition in a sense.
Yeah.
I hate to say it. I hate to say it. This is kind of what you're
Yeah.
doing, right?
Well, I haven't so much been thinking about police and law enforcement, although they're in the same category, but I've been thinking the same way, Brandon, about the military and armies that have been used for super heinous crimes against humanity all over the world. Middle East is the most, Iraq, Libya, Afghanistan, hundreds of thousands of human beings wiped away. And I look at military people entirely different now, and I'm like, holy crap, like, you know, it's wild to see. It's so gross,
Yeah.
you know. But like you said, they are enforcers for the state. That's all they're not doing humanity anything good. And they're making money off of it. And you know, I'm not in the business of judging, but I'm in the business of I will do everything I need to do to stay away from those people. And also, like we talked about earlier, you know, warning people, saying, hey, watch out. This is what's so interesting to me. And I didn't used to connect the dots either because I didn't know. But now that I know, back to the principle, how they treat one person is how they treat all people. If you are a murderer, you're a murderer. Like, I don't care whether the person's over there in another geography or whether their skin's a different color. I'm going to be sketched out by you, and I'm going to tell people, watch out for those people.
Right.
But you have to see it. That's the thing. You have to see it for yourself, or it won't compute, because then you get the nationalistic people, and they're like, yeah, you know, we needed to go to Iraq. And I'm like, you don't know. We needed to go to Libya. You don't know what happened. It's wild.
Well, it's because you're recycling the propaganda given to you on your
Yes.
TV, radio, news host,
Yes.
pundit, whatever it is,
You've never
Ben
thought for
Shapiro.
yourself.
And
Yeah.
again, that's the thing is like every time my buddy Brian, it's like, dude, you're just recycling Daily Wire. What
Yeah.
do you think on it? You can't do that because if you turn off again your soothsayer, tell me soothsayer how I should think about the future, how I
Hmm.
should go forward in this event. It's like, can you do that yourself?
And
No,
then he can't. Yeah.
because they justify what you want to, and then you're like, well, good morals and values, right? Who needs the gospel if I could just do good morals and values, right? I don't really need the oppressive God. God doesn't sign legislation. He doesn't create bullets. He doesn't create military machines of war, right? This is
Yeah.
not who our God is, but you're now imposing that upon him because you don't want to take blame and responsibility for what you caused. You are the one
Yeah.
that loaded the weapon. You are the one that pulled the trigger. You know what I'm saying? Like there comes a certain point where it's because you want to blame God because you don't want to take self accountability,
Yeah.
right? And I'm like, this is part of the problem is that when you start again, if I try to share the Jones plantation thing, it'll go right over his head. You have to kind of
Hmm.
somewhat be in a little bit like in a reeling sense of like, I feel like I'm being lied to. And then that thing kind of walks you through the process of what that
Yes.
lie was, and you start going,
You have to pull at the thread, but it starts for it to unwind. If you don't want to pull the
right.
thread, you're never going to unwind it.
It's like, oh, they were lying to me. Yes, and this is how they lie to you, and this is how the system is orchestrated. Like you have to be in kind of the right mindset to watch that,
Yes.
or the analogy is going to go right over your head, which is the beauty
Hmm.
of it. And that's part of the reason why Christ spoke in parables. Not
Mm.
everybody is meant to get it. And it's sad, Mark, because that's kind of where you and I are at. It's like, okay, you want to talk morals and stuff like that. Let's talk about the hypocrisy. And like I just listed, synagogue is Satan's tunnels over in New York, this, and
Hmm.
this. So you claim to be against this thing, but this is stuff that you ignore.
Yeah.
Well,
Selective.
selective, thank you. And it's
Hmm.
premeditative ignorance. If I'm confronted about the real problem, I'm just going to ignore it, which is ironically,
Yeah.
synagogue of Satan is an SOS.
Hmm.
It's
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. Um, there's a lot of things going on right now, but you know, but back to the pulling at the thread, uh, I came to the conclusion, this was a couple of years ago, that a person has to experience some degree of pain, psychological, physical, something, because the deception, that's what I was going to touch on that you mentioned earlier. Um, uh, Back to the military, like pulling the trigger, the deception and lies are so deep, and the almost like trance state, they've got people in trance state that they'll willingly sign up for. Heck, years ago, I thought, this was 15 years ago, maybe 20. It crossed my mind, hey, maybe I should join the military, maybe if we could improve myself, better myself. Thank God I didn't go forward with that. But I mean, when you're in that mindset and you don't see the deception and you don't see the devil at work in all these systems, I can see how people get pulled into that. This is why I talk about, shooting arrows of truth and killing the enemy, but not harming the people that have, the enemy is holding, which are our brothers and sisters on this planet. It's crazy warfare, mind and spirit and propaganda and media manipulation, and it goes deep. And then you layer on that into, well, my father and grandfather were in the military, and they're, and then, like you say, traditions of men, and I mean, and you go deep, and as I don't know what your, major awakening to the reality of this world was, but it was not pleasant for me. It was not pleasant at all. It was very scary when I realized what was going on here.
for me, I think it kind of happened in phases because I kind of was
Did
already
it?
awake in a lot of areas. It was just more
Yeah.
solidifying what was kind of already being grounded into me. And part of
Hmm.
it, I think, was going to a couple of the Turning Point USA rallies and whatnot. And I'm looking at how hollow it is.
Hmm.
Like
Surface.
I'd be there, I'd hear it, and then I'm like, you just had to end that with a Zeke Heil, and we would have been all set. And everybody would be like, oh my god. And I'm like, no, that's literally what I was feeling
Yeah.
the time listening to the speaker. And there's just a couple of aspects, dude, where it was starting to make me go, this is a cult. There is no Christ being promoted here. And the Christ that they are bringing, again, Charlie's rabbi, or, he was like his mom
Rabbi
was,
Shmuley,
was like, no,
or
his
oh,
mother was
he's
a
his own
Catholic
person.
and somebody else was a Protestant and somebody else was a rabbi. And so he's like, I fit perfectly with all of this. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, cute joke, yes, but at the same time, yikes, because that's
Yeah.
promoting kind of like an interfaith thing.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it's starting to like, I really appreciate that God's always given me the centrist contrarian perspective of don't just follow an absolutionist sense of a party or whoever is a talker. I want to hear the other side. You're not supposed to do that because we just know they're all bad automatically. Yeah, but sometimes the
Me
people
too.
you bring up, I don't like what they had to say. So I kind
Yeah.
of want to hear the other side. And I just did this recently because I had a hunch. And every time I look into my hunches, a lot of times they end up being confirmed.
Yeah.
Like Che Guevara, are you familiar with that guy?
I know the name and a little bit, but not a lot about him. No,
Just the
but he was
revolutionary
the
face, and
freedom
they're like,
fighter.
"Oh, all these college
Hmm.
university students, they like this freaking socialist, blah, blah, blah," and they get all freaked out, and then they end the story there.
Yeah.
Problem, especially with somebody like Turning Point USA, and they say socialism is bad, they'll put like a cancel out mark over the guy's face and everything. It's like, okay, cool. Thing is, do you know why this guy became a communist?
Mm-mm.
Because of the imperial vulture capitalism that was going on in his part of the world, the banana republics, the banana wars.
I've heard of it.
Thank you. You've heard of it, but were we taught that in your generation of school?
No, we weren't. This
and we
goes
weren't
back
taught
into
about
like
it in
this.
mine.
Yeah, this
But
this goes back to the Smedley Butler type of thing. All this
yes, and he's talked about
imperialism.
that.
Now,
I
where
was an
was Che
enforcer
Guevara?
for it.
Was he South America, or was he in was he Puerto Rico?
He hit South America. He hit couple places over there in World War I. I think he was a private
Okay,
or
so he
something. I
moved
remember.
around a little bit, but
Yeah,
he was a rebel. So he are you
I
saying
was a
he
gangster for
became
capitalism.
so are you saying he became radicalized because of imperialism and what the US was doing? Is that what you're
I
saying?
would highly suspect it because
I
I
would
was looking
too.
up. It says, and again, I took some screenshots.
Hmm.
It said the Banana War, whatever, and he was there for a lot of the incidents that he saw.
Yeah,
Now, I'm not condoning what he
right.
did do, like killing a bunch of gays or something in an internment camp, or wherever. What I'm am emphasizing is this is kind of going to the Batman analogy of the one with the Joker with Christian Bale. We're just one bad day away from becoming the villain. You saw the
Yeah.
extremes of what capitalism did, and so you looked for another political solution to counteract that, and you ended up committing violence as almost like an extreme retaliation, right?
Hmm.
Now, I'm not condoning it, but I'm saying victim or villain. Well, he's obviously the villain because communism is like,
It's all
yeah,
perspective, isn't it?
right. But it's like what gravitated somebody to go towards that as a solution? Now, as a Christian, we just say gospel.
Yeah.
Silver and gold have I none, but such as I have, I will give. I don't have materialist things of this world. I don't look for a political monetary philosophy to solve the crises in the world. But what I do have is the gospel. That's again,
Hmm.
if every Christian did this, as opposed to the guy that I was reading aloud last time, if every Christian was living that as a creed,
Yeah.
suddenly we start popping up all over the place and everybody's going, wait, you're not part of the revolution? You're not part of this other
Yeah.
monetary solution? No. I'm opposed to both sides because money, love of money, is the root of
Hmm.
all evil. Both sides, both sides.
Yeah,
So,
and they said they would see the corruption
right.
and they would see the propaganda and the brainwashing and like you said, the cultism.
Well, again, because you were a victim, you were perfectly groomed to be a recruit.
Yes.
And it's the same thing with Hamas. Most of those kids have been done in the butt in
Yeah.
IDF prisons before they become 18 years old. I'm not joking, people. I'm trying to be as nice
Yeah.
as possible by telling you how crude it is. So the minute you
Hmm.
get out and somebody says, "You want to join the revolution, brother?"
Oh, dude, all day
What are
long,
you
man.
going to say if you've been
Yeah.
violated multiple times and now
Hmm.
somebody says, "I'm going to give you a gun and a chance to fight back"? What are you
Yeah.
going to do? And I'm seeing things with PragerU trying to give the opposite, saying, "Oh, they're extremes and they need to be eliminated." And all, no. And I'm like, again, I don't look at the war. I lead up what leads up to the war, right?
Hmm.
Data and analysis. That's what I'm looking at, and I see every single time a lot of gullible and or hurt individuals
Hmm.
that being recruited into these cults. And as we said before, you don't have a purpose, you become a pawn in another man's game. This is how
Yeah.
they sweep you in. Oh, you're hurt? Come over here. We have a solution. Pick up a gun and fight for my problem.
Hmm.
And then you're wasted. That's it. Your life's snuffed out. Every potential gift. You could have been a great artist. You could have been what?
Yep.
And they just snuffed it out because they want you to be cannon fodder for their gods.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to um, the kernel of it, from my understanding. I'd love your opinion on this. Is trauma. Like from the day we're born, we are experiencing trauma in this world, physical, mental, emotional,
Emotional,
and then
spiritual.
and spiritual. And then it's like, oh my gosh, you get, and then that primes, when you look, but when I did a deep dive into like how the CIA, I just random, just like, out a rabbit hole down the road, CIA, fear and trauma, they're able to hack into people's brains and make them do things. And that's overall our whole society is so traumatized. It's layer upon layer upon layer. And it's no wonder that people are primed to be part of this, talking about an ism again, feminism, capitalism, fascism, whatever else. I mean, people are just primed for whatever ism of the day.
Yahism of the day.
Because all the machine wants is to just daze and confuse people and keep them so off balance. That's why we talked about this a couple times ago when it's like you have to disconnect from the matrix, shut off the news, shut off the Ben Shapiro, listen, get in touch with your own thinking and start forming your own ideas and opinions and observation.
Okay.
Otherwise, you're just a pawn.
All right. Or start to look at something halfway. Like I just said, Banana Wars. Use that as your starting point. Buy a couple
Yes.
books, and then you start
Yes.
explaining this is why I can't support that. Why? Because I actually did my own reason.
Hmm.
People may not understand you, but I mean, again, I read briefly on Smedley D. Butler, and then I'm
Yeah.
thinking to myself, all right, he was
It's
a
all connected. Yeah.
right, and I'm like, okay, so let's unpack that. And as I
Yes.
unpack that, I'm over here going, I see another victim that became the villain, and then we only
Yeah.
emphasize the villain aspect as opposed to anything else that might have happened and transpired in between.
Yeah.
Eh,
It's so wild. You know, and I think one of the reasons why you and I do this is because we are meant to kind of uh do that homework and then come back to the people and say, okay, here's a fast track, this and this and this. The idea that I keep coming back to, and it's based on what you were just talking about, like you got to start somewhere. Uh, Falsus in unus, falsus in omnibus. Once you
mhm.
start anywhere, like you can enter the arena through any avenue. For
Yes.
me, it was, studying food and nutrition for 20 years prior to COVID times. Subconsciously, I had never brought it to my conscious level of awareness that the FDA is full of shit and the government's full of shit and they're a complete antithesis of health. I never brought it to the conscious level of awareness, but for 20 years you study it and you're packing the data in, and then when the government comes on the scene and says we care about your health and wellness and we're developing a cure, all that data comes up and goes beep 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 beep, and it spits out a little ticket going, they don't care about you because
Yes.
you already did the homework. And you can come in through the financial arena, through the education arena, through the health and wellness arena, through the war arena by studying wars. And then it's just falsus in unus, falsus in omnibus, and every domino falls. It's
Mm-hmm.
so wild to see,
You're
you
like,
know,
it all connects.
it
It's like
all
those that classic
connects.
meme. How I'm trying to explain everything and how they all interconnect. It is like, yeah, that's kind of how it is. And then
Like
this
it
is
is the
where,
same thing over and over in different areas.
yeah, and this is where with Craig Hargis, I really like his stuff when he's talking about biblical anarchy because of my stuff, I've gone into the archons and then I connect to conspiracy realm because again, there's different avenues that reel people in. There's some people I'm
Yeah.
like, you're not ready for my class. You should have gone to 101 down there.
Yeah.
Before you come into my class, you're going to need to get a
Yeah.
little bit of a primer. And some
Yeah.
people can't even get past his class because they're saying he's doing it all wrong. And I'm over here going, oh, my sweet summer child.
Yeah.
You're not even
Yeah.
supposed to be on this university. It's like,
You're in the wrong
yeah,
school.
you're supposed to be across the street over there, and it's
Yeah.
like all burning in hell and stuff like that. I'm not trying to be mean, but in here, we're trying to cultivate the
Yeah.
seeds, as you just said,
You
to
can't have a
join the
disruptor.
arena and
Yeah.
how boot camp. It's college. It's all the above. And if
Right.
you're not even trying to understand how the world is out there or trying to have a conversation midway, like, oh my gosh, I just talked to a liberal and they're not an extreme purple haired person or
Yeah.
whatever. No, it's like you're talking to them about the
Yeah.
why would they gravitate towards a BLM movement, right? What were stories you heard prior to the big extreme? Now, granted, do they milk off of that? A
Hmm.
hundred percent. I'll give you that. Yes, sir.
Hmm.
But it's the thing. Why are they primed for this? What were other incidents since that makes them say, "Oh, this
Yeah.
is
Why
just
do
like
they
that"?
believe this? Yeah.
Right. Because then they'll harness on that, and then it'll be just like with the Butler rally shooting.
Hmm.
Well, Brandon, I know you don't like Trump, but I was there, and somebody actually
Yeah.
died in the crowd,
Yeah. I've
and
read
I'm
that.
like, yeah, and people were at 9/11, and I hate to tell them this,
Yeah.
it was still an inside job. It was done by the Mossad, and it was done by our CIA.
Hmm.
Did people still die? Yeah, I'm just telling you the provocateurs and the elements of a false flag are being infused, and you don't want to agree with me because I'm telling you they're playing you. They're using your emotions
Hmm.
right now to react as you are right now to agree with the official narrative and
Yep.
not see what's going on behind the curtain. And I've explained to people look into that scene with Mark Anthony at Caesar's funeral. It is a classic case study of I'm going in to give a eulogy and I just weaponize the crowd. Now, is a eulogy supposed to do that? No. But is this what he did? Uh-huh. And it worked in his favor because he didn't have
Yep.
military until he did that. Now the military wants to side with him.
Yeah. Well, this is why another classic example that I give to people, and some just don't, again, cannot see it. I mean, when you watch Senate hearing of the CIA in like 1975 in there, and they telling the world we have people in media. And when the senator asked him to elaborate on that, he says, let's talk offline about this. That is
Mhm.
all I need to know, that I am done watching any media, including politicians. And I mean, because the level that's 1975, the
Mhm.
the the level of brainwashing and propaganda has to be off the charts. Now, who knows what they're putting in there? But until, and I don't think people have seen that clip. And if they have, then they'll be like, well, maybe, no, blah, blah, blah. It's hard to get out of this. It can be hard to unshackle yourself, but for me, it's fundamental, rudimentary 101. Step one is stop watching anything they produce.
Mhm.
Stop listening to any politicians, unless doing it from a critical standpoint to critique them.
Thank you.
You
Yeah,
know,
and there were or
it,
you like there's this clip that I saw, and it's sad that I have to write out inscriptions because everybody's gonna say, "Oh, you're a closet liberal," blah blah blah. I'm like, no, but
mm,
the breakdown that they just did is good for consideration. The downside is you're automatically programmed to be reactive
yeah,
if I show you something from the other side, right?
yeah,
As opposed to getting the other half truth from the other side and then coming through the filter as platforms like yourself and I going, okay, this is what you heard.
hmm,
Is there a little merit of truth? Yes, but let's dissect that now. Downside is we have to literally dumb it down so much. It's like
we do.
I have
Yeah.
to go and find the worm, chew up the worm, spit it into your mouth, then you freaking it's
Digest
like
it, partially digest it. Well,
right,
to that point, I kind of, I kind of like having to do that, because what I do is I poke the bear a little bit and make them feel, in a loving way, kind of dumb. Like, do you do you get it now? Do you want your baba? Like, do you need
you
get
want your
ready for
bubble.
solid food now? I mean,
Okay, okay.
because that's like we talked about earlier. What's our payoff? My payoff is a little bit of, gloating in good nature, kind of a thing. Like,
Well,
because
it's like we both evolved, and now we can smile about how bad it
yeah,
was. It's
yeah,
just like
that's
after a traumatic event.
yeah,
Are you laughing during the trauma? No. And then sometimes you get up later and you're laughing about the whole, like, oh, that was so
yes.
stupid, and then I was doing this, and I thought that would fix it, and it didn't. And
You have
it,
to find a way to have fun,
yeah,
with it. And if people, if, like you said, if you have to, chew the worm, digest a little bit, spit it in the mouth, like, you have to razz them a little bit, going, okay, you realize how ridiculous this is, don't you? You have the ability to digest ideas and information just like I do, but it's dormant, it's been dormant in you.
right.
And, we need to rebuild your
Well, it's saying that you have potential fertile ground. Downside is
yes.
as opposed to what is it, harvesting, as Christ was constantly phrasing it, and grafting and stuff like that. What they
Mhm.
have us do is run the rat race, or they put us in a little cage and
Yes.
run the wheel, and we don't seem to
We're
realize
so distracted.
we're running the treadmill, and
Yes.
we don't seem to realize that was created for slaves.
Yes.
And it's like, yeah, because you yourself, no one's taught you how to do planting, how to do. And as we were saying before, some of us are not animal caregivers. We're not, guy. I've even
Hmm.
like my buddy. I used to do odd jobs with him, and there's one time we were doing this farming stuff, and I'm like, nope, this ain't for me.
Really. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Not
it's
everyone's
like
built for
the more
that.
we were trying to use the tool, the more I was going, dude, this is stupid. Why? Because I
Yeah.
would do it this way, and I wouldn't even need to do it. And so he's
Hmm.
gotten somebody else to replace me, and I'm fine with that. It's totally fine. Now he's got an extra hand. The thing is, I told him my area of expertise, farming ability, is curriculum. It's
Yes.
literature. It's breaking down psyops. Everybody's got their field of expertise. The thing is,
Hmm.
and for so long as a kid, that wasn't cultivated. It wasn't like you saw talent, and then like some of these people that become famous are like, well, they saw I was good at piano, and so like we kept doing classes, and now that's why I'm doing the thing. You see a little something, you try to water it.
Nurture it. Yeah.
Right. And then that's what we should have as a culture. And you and I have found that.
Hmm.
We have found our little niche, and we're
Niche.
trying
Yeah.
to share what we have and what we've gained from it with everybody else in the tribe.
Hmm.
Now, granted, compared to the Jesuit slash Rockefeller education system, is that a means of valuable resource? I'd say so,
Yeah.
right? Because I'm now helping you go. I didn't think of it like that before.
Yeah.
You're welcome. And when I get a DM like that, I'm like, you're welcome. Thank you. And I'm almost
Hmm.
crying sometimes reading it, going, thank you.
Yeah.
Somebody
An
got what I was
acknowledgement.
trying to imply without thinking I'm going to this side or that side. They're just going, oh, okay.
Well,
Like,
and we talked about this at the beginning of our conversation, this idea of, in a fallen world where money runs this world and the corruption runs deep and the people with the most money appear to be super evil and bad characters, and they're just like, hey, I'm going to pay you this much to do all these bad things. In a fallen world where money runs this world, it can sometimes appear that people who do, and like you and I do, investigating, assimilating, understanding, correlating all these things, is maybe not a worthwhile cause. I beg to differ. I mean, I cannot imagine being out there tossed in the seas and not having these anchors of this inquisitiveness and knowledge, because look what happened in 2020.
mm,
People, like I said, people who did the research and did the studying and knew what was going on, they didn't get caught up in the psyop. And there'll be there's always more psyops. There's layers upon layers upon layers of psyops. I'm not saying I'm always going to be, coming up roses, but this work that we do is invaluable in 2025 and beyond. I call it what I do kind of like, and I think of this as what you do as well, is uh covert action agency for God, like CIA for God,
mm.
to spread the intelligence of, hey, it's counterintelligence is what it is.
Dude, I've called it SWID, Spiritual Warfare Intelligence Department.
Yes, that's good.
Um, and that's it's true because as you said, you recruit, I go behind enemy lines, and then I'm kind of telling you, here, take these photos and show it to the new people.
Yeah.
Because this is the highlight reel. Uh, and as opposed to the
Yeah.
government that's trying to groom somebody, it's like, tobacco's bad for you. You have to be 21 years old or something like that. But then they're
Yeah.
also recruiting 18-year-olds for freaking more. Uh,
Sure.
it's a laughable, but at the same time, we're over here going spiritually and eternally speaking. Stop being involved in loving your government and things of this world, politicians,
Oh, yeah,
whatever, what have you,
100%.
sports. Like,
Celebrities, all
well,
of it,
yeah.
100%.
And I've never understood the appeal of reality TV because reality TV is probably one of the most scripted things in the world,
Yeah.
right? Because they need drama in order to get good ratings and good ratings, and so it's like, I I genuinely love a person that can intellectually meet me halfway. And
Hmm.
this even goes into relationships, dude. It's like if you can banter and or you can have a discourse of dialogue with me without me having to dumb down and explain exactly what I mean by that or something like in a pun. I don't have to like
Yeah.
dissect the exact meaning of said pun because you know it'll go right over your head. I
Yeah.
like meeting somebody that's going to meet me halfway. Why? Because you did your due diligence to understand either the grammar that I'm using or to understand my sense of humor, right?
Yeah.
I appreciate somebody like that because as opposed to creating a robot that only says what I want him to think, and you came up with that yourself, that's what makes you special. Because it's like, thank
Yeah.
you, because you went through a journey too, and now we're sharing a bonding moment. Like we do, they say
Yeah.
before trauma creates bonding.
Yeah.
That's what they're scared of because they want us in our little cubicles and they don't ever want us to actually bond. Because if we bond, and that's part of the reason, dude, the real reason they're getting scared of the universities is not so much, oh, the liberal professors. They're getting scared because the average Joe is now using a university to get ideas across to each other without actually repeating what the professor said. They're talking about what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
So we have to create this state of paranoia so that people will want to turn in their college students or they'll lose their funding if they speak truth. Now, if they're doing that to universities, that's only a dip of a degree, and like they're going after the intelligentsia class right now,
Yeah.
right? And that's always one of the first things that fascists will do. But now you start tipping that into society. That's pretty scary, dude. Because then at a certain point, conversations like this, oh, this did not pass our community guidelines. Why? Because we were speaking our minds about what's going on in the world. Well, you're not speaking with what we want you to be saying. We want people to keep going towards a solution, and you're starting to, get people to think outside the box. Okay, and you're going to say conspiracy is the bad thing here. I'm telling you, dude.
Well, and it comes back. back to the, how they treat one person is how they treat every person, falsus
Yeah.
in unus, falsus in omnibus. If they're doing it over here, they'll do it everywhere. This is why it's so important right now to connect the dots and be like, okay, because you have to build a psychological profile of these people, and you got to,
Mhm.
they're robbing you in invisible taxes through inflation. They're robbing you through debt that they're piling onto you and your children's accounts. Like, what's the psychological profile of this person? Because if you this is what's so wild to me, Brandon, and it is for you and I, it's somewhat frustrating sometimes because like we've got the psychological profile built and we know these people and we gather more data on them. But there's some people out there that still don't know the calls coming from inside the house. They
Mhm.
still don't know that the person they're sitting like the killer's right next to you. They still don't see it, and there's nothing you can do to break through until they do that. But it's like you have to build the psychological profile and understand these people, that they do not have your best interest at heart. They're using you, they're exploiting you, they're manipulating you. It's hard to watch it sometimes when the people are like this with the gov and or their religion, and it's like, oh my gosh, if you could see what I could see, you
Well, it's
know?
like they say I want limited government, but then they also have back to blue on their freaking
Yes.
it's like, okay, so you don't seem to realize this. Even the fact with the back to blue flag, have you looked at it? It's black and white with the blue stripe. Black and white, what is that? That's Masonic colors. Just like
Yeah,
the
good
original
point.
prisoners that they used to put in there. What's that symbolizing? You're in prison right now as you're trying to
Yeah.
find your equilibrium and balance, right? To go between the two pillars.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're wearing orange. Orange, representing loyalty in Freemasonry. So, and Constitution, meaning I agreed to this. So
Mm.
you're agreeing to be a second class citizen that they milk money off
Yeah.
of you. If you watch the 13th Amendment documentary, they milk money off of this industry. You know what I'm saying? And this is
Yeah.
where I'm looking at people. When I was telling this to Antoine. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I'll watch John Oliver and they'll be like first paragraph or two, I'll be like, nope, done. But there's other
Yeah.
times again because I've seen him do the one eye thing and stuff like that. But there's other times
Mm-hmm.
where I go in there because it's semi explaining situations I would not hear averagely, but when it's broken down for me, I'm going, okay. So when I'm talking to somebody out there in the world, I'm over here going,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I saw a breakdown of that, and that's why I started looking into this. Then I bought a book, and it's like, do I have to agree with 100% everything that's
Yeah,
said?
you take what you can, yeah, within I agree 100%. Yeah.
And
So
then that's
you'll
what it should
entertain it.
be, is that
Yeah.
you're healthily sitting in the middle, not just automatically turning it off because it's not my preferred
Right. Right.
soothsayer that I want to hear for the day. The other side of that is everybody's like, well, how come you don't say the same thing with Tucker or whatnot? Well, because Tucker is always emphasizing, the this thing, that thing, the other thing. The
Mm-hmm.
other one is sometimes breaking down us. Okay, so the difference between now, the other one's always talking about real things that are kind of irrelevant most of the time. The other one is breaking down things that are everyday in our society, but most people don't really want to talk about too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And for me, I was over here like, okay, so if I have to hear the other side, okay, I'll listen to this one. Because sometimes as a centrist, I'm over here going, okay, so I see where the left is thinking on this,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm seeing how the right is grifting off the other side.
Mm-hmm.
So I can sit there in the middle and go, oh, okay. So I'm not biased, but I can sit in the middle and go,
Yeah.
okay, I see where this line of thinking is coming from. And he does a decent job breaking it down in a humorous way,
Yes.
right?
Well, I do that with NPR a lot, as I do deep
Yeah,
dive into
yeah.
various topics. The interesting thing about, and this is again so wild, and if I just wish people could get this, it's like they lead their audience, or what they'll do, like I'm doing a deep dive right now on the sugar industry and the sugar lie, from the what 70s, 80s, even into the 90s. I think it started in the 70s and 80s. The sugar lie was like, oh, it's fat that's bad, sugar's okay, right? But now, and NPR broke it all down in a number of series, they're like, oh, the sugar industry lied to you,
Yeah.
and all this stuff, because in NPR, again, once you peel back the layers, their status, they just whatever the gov's agenda is, they're going to sway that way. But
Yeah.
when you see that, once you go back and you see how they lead people and how they expose these pretty major um, aggressions towards humanity. I mean, when you're telling, a generation of people it's okay to eat sugar and their health is super, uh, you know, bad because of it, that's pretty evil, but people still aren't connecting the dots and they're just being led along the way. And then, recently, fluoride starts to come out and what was the other one? Red dye starts to come
Yep.
out, and the gov's like, oh yeah, these things are bad. Like, again, falsus in unus, falsus in omnibus, It's
I said,
so
I could have
interesting.
told you that. Well,
Which,
and that's even for me. It's like when with John Oliver, he never scrutinized Biden, and there was so much material to
yes,
do there. Same thing with
yes.
C-19. I'm like, guys, see, I'm not an idiot, but like I do see that. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
you notice it.
Yeah, and part of it is going, okay, so the bias is definitely there. I can acknowledge that. But that's not exactly what I'm looking for because I can easily
Mm,
go on Turning Point USA and find a bunch of memes on Biden or go to some other page and stuff like that. And we
right.
already have more than enough material. That's part of the reason, again, I don't emphasize so much on that because I see that for what
Yeah,
it is, a distraction. But I also acknowledge there's the hypocrisy that we can blatantly see as well.
yeah,
What I want to emphasize on is, do you guys see what's right over here or right in front of you and you're choosing to ignore? That's what I like bringing to the forefront because I see so many people ignoring it.
yeah.
Like you just said with NPR, is like, yeah, we know sugar is bad. Now, can you talk about the other ingredients? Oh, we're not talking about that. Well, I would appreciate it if you did because it does interconnect.
Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
and all that you're all that, again, all that you're hoping for is that it's going to spark people going, well, if they lied about this, if these
Hmm.
corporations and government agencies lied about this, what else are they lying about?
It's
That's all I want people to do.
like, oh, so if they're willing to lie about this, what else could they
Yeah,
possibly be willing to lie to me about?
you know?
And that's all. And I think that's the problem, dude, is that honestly, government, because it is mind control, it's
Hmm.
ultimately going, if I don't trust mommy and daddy government, I don't, I have to become an adult. I have to leave home.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And again,
I got to think
patriotism.
for myself.
I love the homeland. I love this. I love, so if you
Yeah.
love the homeland, you're going to fight for mommy and daddy, aren't you?
Hmm.
And that's what it becomes, is that when we're over here going,
Yeah.
mommy and daddy kidnapped you.
Yeah.
They're trying
Drugs
to
you.
do a rape favor and they're asking you these questions.
Yeah.
And you're over here going, well, it's not that bad. We're like, they're slapping and beating you around and they're telling you everything's fine. And we're over
Yeah.
here going, this is not normal. And that's
Right.
the problem,
It's
is that
abuse.
they don't, if we get rid of government, as opposed to what the other guy was saying, we're telling we want government to fix the problem. We just have to figure out how to put the right guy in charge and have Christian legislation
Yeah.
go through to fix all of this. And we're over here going, we are already realized we're at enmity with this world.
Yeah.
We're never going to get what we want. It sucks. Like, again, always look at the bright side of life. We're kind of at that
Yes.
point where it's like we're gonna go on a cross either way. It sucks. But we understand in eternity
Uh,
what little thing we're dropping here, right? We're
mhm,
pointing to Christ. We're pointing to the solution. We're pointing to the Savior as opposed to things of this world as the solution because we
mhm.
see the emptiness, the void
Yeah.
that is the world. And people don't seem to understand is that when I'm saying your uniform and your flag is not saluted in eternity, the borders you defend now are not going to be in eternity. And they're just
Hmm.
looking at you going, these are temporary things. So
Yeah.
why do you defend and cling to them so tightly? And that's kind of like the teddy bear thing, where it's like, well, I don't want to get rid of the teddy bear. You
Yep.
have to get rid,
Pacifier.
yeah, you have to get rid of it if you want to evolve. And the problem is people don't want to grow up because again, it goes back to the endemic excuse. If I take personal accountability, right, I have to take
It's on me.
responsibility,
Yeah.
right? And Adam points at Eve, Eve points at the snake. And again, this goes right back to what we were talking about.
Yeah.
It's going back into our modern relationships. And I was reading a meme that popped up. It said women get addressed by Miss, Mrs., or Miss. Society, because society deems it important to know if she is single, married, or widowed. Men are only addressed by Mr. because their relationship to women does not affect their social status.
Wow, that's interesting. I've never thought about it that way.
Well, I was like, well, kudos. There we are. That's part of the thing, is how we identify ourselves in society well, I voted for Trump, automatically Republican,
Hmm.
and we associate everything affiliated with that. Now, unfortunately, yes, because here's the way I look at it, Mark. As opposed to doing identity politics of just saying like a stereotyping, what I am doing is going, okay, so if you voted, you're picking a party. What did you go to Janice's party or did you go to Molly's party? Which one did you choose? The red or the blue? I went to this one. Okay, cool. So you picked your favorite pop girl, right? And your favorite mean girl to follow for the week. This is you, right? And you keep doing this. This is like I said, my buddy Brian would said, would you ever be able to think of a picking of a third party? Too much for him. I said, whoa. Okay, so you literally just told me it's red or blue, even though sometimes I voted for the other side. It's red or blue. You know what I'm saying? You can't think outside of your school, unfortunately. And that's kind of the scary thing, is that means you're not willing to entertain a third perspective, right? You have to either go with mom or dad for the weekend. That's what we're come
Oh,
down
that's
to.
so crazy. I know.
I
Well,
know it
and
sounds kind of like it's not that simple. Yes, it is. And
yeah.
unfortunately, if you picked a side, again, as Carlin used to say, because he
Hmm.
quotes Carlin all the time, but I said, you don't get it.
Oh,
He
really?
literally says, "I don't vote," and then Brian's telling me, it says, "Well, if you don't vote, you don't have a right to complain." And then Carlin was even broken down. He says, "I have every right to complain because
Yeah.
you're the idiot that keep this circus going." So
Yeah.
I literally now am looking at you going, "Okay, so you chose the red one. That means I can stereotype every single red thing upon you in a
Yep.
sense because I'm neutral." Know what I'm saying? I could go
Yeah.
ruthless
I've seen
because
behind the curtain. Yeah, I
right.
see
I
how it
don't
works.
do this side or that side, but I can stereotype the crap out of both y'all's because you're
Yeah.
the ones that keep this going. So don't
Yeah.
tell me when I'm putting a stereotype, well, I'm not every Republican. Yes, you are, because you contributed to the system with your vote. And if you don't like being painted that way, then stop putting in, you're putting your vote is adding to me mixing the paint to paint
Yeah.
the wall for this year.
Well, your stories just now reminded me of that classic meme where the politicians at the edge of a plank with this podium and all the people are
Yes.
standing on the plank and one guy's like walking away. That is all we need to do, from celebrities, from sports figures, from politicians, walk away. And I never really got into sports. I mean, yeah, I fell into the Hollywood, watching and giving celebrities my energy and time and energy. Not anymore, not much anymore, but it's never with sports. And I did give them a little with politicians, but even 20 years ago, I could see that they're super negative. They're always saying the same things. There's always dangling carrots. Now I just pull it all back and I'm like, if everyone did that, their little house of cards would crumble in a week, a day even. But like you said, people are so apprehensive. They've been trained since birth to look out to these figures, political, celebrity, sports. It's wild.
It's wild. And as you just said, I was reading something that's on voluntarism is action. It says we twist a knife into the empire every time we refuse. Active
Mm,
refusal reveals deeper. The state is fragile. It depends on complicity. No more
yes, that's
taxes spent on genocide, war, so on and so forth. And it's just talking about every time you stand up to it. And I was chuckling because Andor was playing some clip of some guy that was talking for the rebellion, and like oppression is the mask of fear,
mm,
right? I have to keep enforcing tyranny or making you guys scared and fearful. And as a Christian, we're over here going, keep coming. It's fine. I'll start singing hymns and praising God. Because the fact that you're persecuting me means you're scared of me,
yep,
right? The fact that
yep,
I'm speaking truth to power terrifies you. The fact that you have to censor our pages and reels from getting out there is proving to me you're absolutely terrified of the truth. Because, and again, somebody saying, you're not doing anything for Palestine. I'm talking about it. I'm bringing
hmm.
it to the forefront. I'm seeing so many other people.
Raising awareness. Yeah.
Right. And they're being silent and complicit. I'm bringing up analogies. I'm showing you
Hmm.
clips of the other side. I'm showing you what the mindset is and the history of
Yeah.
going on here, right? And what does it say in the Bible? My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. I'm
Hmm.
bringing knowledge to the forefront and I'm saying you got to look at this. And guess what? The only solution to this is God's word. Well,
Yeah.
yes, because God is against all the things your government is doing. He is against all the things and the hurts and woes and tribulations in this world. He is the
Hmm.
only solution. So, in eternity speaking, yes, that is carrying a huge burden. but it is worth carrying because guess what? Others have carried this baton and they died defying tyranny.
Yeah.
That's who I want to side with. I don't want to side with the side that cowers in fear because, oh, the government tells me I can't think like that.
Yeah, I shouldn't speak out because I'll lose social status or I'll lose,
Right,
you know,
right.
uh, whatever. And well, ooh, it's so crazy. Yeah, I mean, it is. Uh, and that is, if people had true awareness of all the things that are going on in the world, all those problems, like we said, if you pull the energy back, they'll crumble in a day. They have to manipulate, they have to deceive. It's the only way they do their thing. And then they're like, oh, give us the kids at 5 years old. We need them,
Mm,
and then you go off and work your three jobs so you can pay your, taxes. And then that's people are waking up. They're seeing through the BS. Sadly, and I'm in this camp, sadly, it is largely because the system is now turning in on itself. It would have been
mm,
nice if, and some people do, I'm sure, wake up going, oh, I'm going to investigate. But it's like I said, back to when it gets painful enough and bizarro enough, like COVID was the bizarro time, like, oh, this is weird. You're, deceiving us in a mass, and someone close to me had complications from that thing. And so I was like, oh, or I might have not had the awakening journey that I had.
mm.
But pain is the great waker upper.
Well, for me, dude, they're juggling so many balls of lies. That's
Yes.
ultimately what I see, and then the Titanic is going down
Yes.
at the same time.
Yes. It's like
And
it feels like the crescendo of a fireworks show. The
yes,
lies. Lie, 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 lie.
that's actually a perfect analogy. Yeah, and some of us are over here going, wait till they see the finale, the final firework where Christ returns. We,
Yes.
we know they're scared, dude, because they're building bunkers.
Yeah.
We know they're scared because now they have to go to the podcast because nobody's turning into Fox News and CNN and stuff like that. Right? They're trying to become so much like us and to fit in
Yeah.
because they're not of us. And that's part of the beauty is that some of us are here going, it's absolutely laughable.
Yeah.
But some of us are also being like the musicians on the Titanic. Some people said, I think that's just stupid that they started playing their instruments while the ship's going down.
Yeah.
If you can't get on a lifeboat, but you want to bring some hope and maybe cool some anxiety,
Yep.
or maybe just do what you love doing in the last minutes that you have alive,
Hmm.
that's good. That's kind of what some of us are doing as content creators.
Sure.
There's no benefit in all of this. There is no
Mm-mm.
like.
Not a
Do
lot.
you know in the Titanic? I did a paper on this and went right over the teacher's head. But I was bringing out how it is ironic that the musicians on the Titanic they were still charged for their uniforms by the people that made
Oh.
their band uniforms. Yeah, even though they died by the families, they and I'm like, okay,
Hmm.
they were bringing hope to people during a very perilous time, right?
Yeah.
And people that were in the lifeboats were hearing that music even as they were drifting out before the ship went and down. What for you to still say I still want my money? Sad. Anyway, it's very sad. Where's my money? This is
Hmm.
what are we doing as Christians? Before
Hmm.
we go out, are we trying to bring some light, some hope to the world so that they're over here going, you know what? I never truly believed, but this might be the final moments. I'm
Hmm.
gonna sit sit and listen to you guys because there's nothing better to do, right?
Yeah. Yeah. What, that it does feel like end game. It does feel like, whatever that's going to be. I mean, we all have our assumptions of what they're doing, but it's not going to be good, you know?
It's not gonna be good, but I think the problem is that people keep and again this is ironic. Antichrist means substitute, and people keep putting substitutes before God, whether that's their government, entertainment, their
Yes.
job. They don't
Yes.
want to take responsibility, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, I hate to tell you this, to pick up your cross means you can't sit in a lawn chair.
Hmm.
To pick up your cross means you literally have to get up and follow him to be fishers of
Yeah.
men. Right?
Yeah.
To be a fisher of men doesn't mean you just throw your net and that's in. The fish come automatically into the thing like he did with
Hmm.
physical fish. You sometimes have to go out and throw out your net, and it's going to take all night. in order just to catch a couple of fish.
Yeah. Got to
And then,
start somewhere.
yeah, it's like people don't seem to realize is that as a Christian, it's going to require work, effort, and putting in the time. And unfortunately, I think what most people say is I did my 9 to 5.
Yep.
I now just want to be entertained by my Netflix or Amazon series of the day. And I don't really want to think about anything else that's going on in the world. And don't tell me that's not you, because a lot of you people keep scrolling past stuff that we're putting out in your timeline and you're just ignoring it. And I've seen it since C19, dude. I've
Mhm.
seen it in real time. I almost don't want to see some of these people ever again in this life
Mm.
because they're so cowardly and they're intentionally ignoring things. Like again, and I know that's the case because when I post selfies, oh wow, I haven't seen a like from you in over 3 or 4 years. But the minute I
Yeah.
put something on my
Yeah.
face, again, it's not about my face, but I'm laughing.
Right.
That's what
Jesting.
grabs your attention. That's the only thing. Everything else, didn't see it, man. Oh yeah, you must be
Yeah.
sensitive. Oh, I didn't know. I didn't know. So when you get to heaven and you're gonna say, "Well, I didn't know. I tried to be a good national patriot and all this stuff." That, dude, really? That's your game plan. That's going to be your resume
Uh,
you want to present to the throne of God as I was a good patriot.
yeah.
I
Well,
got
that's
rid of
right
the
up
bad
there.
immigrants.
Yeah, that's right up there of I was just following orders or just following the authority.
It's like
Like, oh,
my son gave you orders. He says, "Go forth and disciple all nations."
yeah.
Right? What are you doing? Get out of my country.
Yeah.
Again, even that premise, dude. Get out of my country. Sure. Okay. Is there bad people? Yes, but we have bad people even in Chicago, right?
Hmm.
We didn't have to have any immigration come in for that. And we all make jokes. Chicago's a bad town. You don't want to get shot at. But you're telling me it's because of the immigrants that we're having problems. Now, here's the
Yeah.
question. Why do they feel like America is the place to go to and not Africa, not Europe? Well, it's the only thing that they got that's good. Well, how come they don't stop in Mexico? I've heard a lot of people give some good reviews about Mexico, minus a few gangs here and there. Why? Because they're going to a place that seems better and they were getting an offer that seemed a lot
Hmm.
better than what an opportunity. And when you
Yeah.
look at what happened in Venezuela before Trump was leaving office, he fired off a whole bunch of legislation that basically hit tariffs and whacked the freaking Venezuelan government. So everybody's
Yeah.
going, what the frick? The government's now eating us out of house and home. I'm eating out of a garbage. I saw one guy, he was chasing a garbage truck just to collect
Sure.
food out of it.
Yeah.
Now, guys, do you realize the amount of desperation you have to be in to say
Yeah. It
that's a
was all
viable solution?
orchestrated.
Right, for a diet. So what are you going to do? Oh wow, open borders. Come over here.
Hmm.
Again, I'm not advocating government programs. I'm not advocating any of this. What I'm saying is, again, do you understand what would instigate migrations to come to our country?
Yeah.
Right? Just like what again, how we came to this country. Now imagine the Native Americans saw us when we were first coming to the beach and they're like, we need to build a wall.
Hmm.
Why?
Yeah.
They're going to take over everything. So
Yep.
again, I know it sounds extreme and stupid, but it's like this is kind of the premise. And what do we do with them? We're going to sign a treaty, handshake, and then we're going to send you on the Trail of Tears while we take your land.
Sure.
Don't worry, we're going to give you a reservation. You don't even own the hotel.
Yep. Yeah, we'll give you the reservation and we'll give you the loans to build on it. I mean, it's all financial enslavement, but that's one thing. These psyops and Hegelian dialectics, and especially with the border thing, it's like I remember watching the one of the car bombing or the car killings over in Germany, and they were talking about how Angela Merkel, I think it was her that said, we can do this, we can integrate these people into our thing. And I'm like, it is so obvious that they made the problem, facilitated the problem, giving you a solution. They want you to basically, surveil yourself or turn yourself
Yeah,
over to police state. Even Larry Ellison, it's so hilarious. Like I just can't imagine anyone buying this BS. I saw the clip again of him the other day saying, yeah, everything will be so much better when we have a total surveillance state. People will feel safer. People will think like, is anyone believing this BS anymore? It's always been a lie. Everything they've said has been a lie for decades. And
yeah.
here they are trying to bring the crescendo of put yourself in digital shackles and your whole life will be. It's like, are you,
Digital shackles. I love it.
it's like the other one was, um, whether it's in the financial arena. I mean, it's so absurd that people are still buying the BS. Like you said, you nailed it in our first interview when you said, if people aren't awake after COVID and it doesn't pass the smell test, you might not be able to wake up. Like it just might not be your this it might not be in the cards for you, you know? It's so crazy.
Yeah, and sadly, dude, it's like it's not that hard to wake up at this point. At this point, you're choosing
I think so.
because
I think
we're like the
so.
smelling salts.
Willful ignorance. I think you talked about that a while ago.
Yes, or premeditated
Pre,
ignorance.
yes.
And again, that's a medical term. You can look it up. Cognitive dissonance, Stockholm syndrome. I think it's
Mhm.
like a combination of those three things. And I know they sound like was it flash words, buzzwords? You're trying to make, and then like, no, you literally look into the definition. Statism is
Yeah.
Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah.
You cannot see your life without the state. And again,
Hmm.
we're over here saying we don't need the state. We could do this on our own. Well, what about a structure? Yeah, okay, so you want structure. I like organization too, but I'm telling you, what if we did that ourselves and we didn't have somebody else
Yeah.
dictate it over us, right? Again, the aspect that people love cities, every time I'm driving around, dude, I do not like highways and I do not like cities.
No. No. Well, speaking of the Stockholm syndrome, the other day I was thinking of the idea of it kind of feels like Munchausen's, right? Like the mommy and the daddy are making the kids sick, so they need the mommy and the daddy. Like
Well,
it's
dude,
so
it's like you
sick.
just said. The irony is, okay, I keep bringing my kid to the doctor, but the elements
Yeah.
of what's making the kid sick is what the parent keeps feeding them.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so I know it's taking a complete random spin, but it's kind of like with Sweeney Todd. I feel like I'm eating human in my diet. Well, why would you say that? Well, I keep having meat pies from this really lovely place that's underneath the barber shop. It's like, well, yeah, you're gonna keep having that problem, McDonald's, if you keep going
Right.
there. So stop blaming me that you're finding teeth or whatnot in your chicken nuggets when you're going out with your kid. When some of us have been saying, hello, well, I heard it was a rumor.
I
Well,
know.
why don't it behoove you to take a little bit of a healthy precaution of
Hmm.
superstition? Try like, again.
Just look into it,
Some
just
people have done
investigate.
chemistry sets and broken
Yes.
down what's even in your food. Like the little black thing is not that's not pepper. That's something else in your chicken nugget. You might want.
Yes.
And I'm over here going, why would you want to put that into your kid's body? Or
Yeah.
why would you not want to look into like canola oil? And it's like, dude, at a certain point, I'm guilty of being complicit if that is only thing I offer my kid. What I
Yeah.
was probably saying is that my kid asks for a piece of bread. Am I going to give him a scorpion or a snake or something? Like, no, you want to give them the best that you got as a dad.
Yeah.
You might be poor, but it's like I'm going to give you the best option I can because I care about you. You're part of me. It's
Hmm.
the same thing with your heavenly Father. And again, this because as Christians, I am telling you where to find manna, right? Manna daily.
Yes.
I'm telling you where to find the source, the healthy stuff. And you, in contrast, once I tell you it's healthy, but it's going to take a little work to dig it out, you're going, yeah, I have to do
Yeah.
work. Yeah, you have to do work. Have you ever
They get us
watched
by convenience. They
you
get
ever
us by
watched Bob
convenience.
Newhart
Yes, I did back in the day.
when they're
Yeah.
doing it's kind of like that little blonde girl. She's like, ew, I'm gonna have to do this. It's like, yes, you
Oh, you're
can't live
talking about
by
the
it.
the show. Okay, I haven't seen the show, and so he had a what, a
But
sitcom
like, remember that little the maid girl that they had that was all hitey tighty and she didn't really want to do so much work sometimes.
on the sitcom?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I don't remember her, but
And
so
yeah, well, anyways, she had a thing where and it always makes me laugh every time she goes, "Ew!" Like I have to do that, and they're like,
yes,
"Yes, this is like basic stuff for being an adult." Well, I don't want to do that. I'm gonna get money, and so I don't have to pay for it. And that's kind of the
it
mentality
is the mentality.
of most Americans, especially people in the Western part of the hemisphere.
Hmm.
We have this thing we're saying, "Well, I don't really want to do that." It's again just like with relationships. You don't want men, but you want roads, right?
Hmm.
You don't want this, but you want that. And it's at a certain point, it's like, yes, but there's work that went in to do this. Now, what we're telling you, we don't want the government. As a man, I can lead my own home, right?
Yeah.
Most of the stuff, I don't need all that. If we have a big enough community, we'll have the scholar and school teacher. We'll have the person that's good with the horses.
Right. It takes a
We'll have the
village,
person
takes a
that's good with
community.
the chickens. And we'll have somebody that can do art and somebody else that can do cooking. Why? Because then we're tapping into ourselves. And I'm not saying inner consciousness. I'm saying we're
Right.
tapping
But
into
your
the gift
talents.
that
Yeah,
God, yeah,
gifts.
God has cultivated and gifted us with. And we're giving it back to the body of Christ, right?
Hmm.
We're grafting in, we're sharing, which should be normal.
Yep.
Because what did 2020 teach me? Is even though I'm trying to share with my family and friends, people that I would term with these titles of endearment, they're ignoring me.
Yeah.
So if you, again, I gave this analogy before too, and again, I don't do Christmas, but sometimes having the knowledge that I have, it's like coming into the room and you have all these presents and you're over here like, I have so many things I want to give you guys. I have something specifically for you, something for you, and they're just going, we don't care.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
just want
Where's
to care.
because it doesn't fit the traditional norm of presence, the tech, the this, the that.
Right,
They don't value that. Like you said, back to the people perish without the knowledge of things. Yet they don't value those things when it's the most valuable thing.
right. And it's like, well, it's not the new, whatever iPad,
Apple Watch or
whatever.
whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, but it's special and it's vintage and it's been taken care of, and I want to give it to you and
Yeah.
they're just like, I don't care. And I think that in a communal sense, that's what you and I kind of want to do is
Yeah.
say, I don't have much, but I have 5 loaves and 2 fish, and I want to give it to the community. Why? Because it's all I have, but I love the aspect that I get the chance to share. I have the opportunity to do so. And most people are ignoring that. Now,
Yeah.
spiritually speaking, and it amounts to eternity, who do you think God's going to be favoring the person that was ignoring you? Or he's going to say, remember when this person tried to give you a little something and you
Yeah.
ignored them? I gave them that gift. I wanted them to share it with you, and you said no. So this is coming back to the helicopter story analogy. I sent the
Yes.
boat. I sent the helicopter. I sent this. You were waiting for me to physically get down there. I
Yeah.
sent you several avenues of a chance to wake up or to get out of the situation you're in. And because it wasn't in the way that you wanted it, what?
Hmm.
I thought we could vote our way out of the New World Order.
Yeah.
You
That's our guy. He's going to help
depart
us.
from me. I never knew you. I tried. I
Yeah.
sent you disciples. I sent people to speak on my behalf, and you turned them from away from your midst.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know what's gonna come down the line, but like you said, it does feel like there's this heightening of just so many things that are so outlandish. Like we were talking about the ceremony in the Middle East and in Saudi, contrasted with what's going on in Gaza. Heck, it's not like what's going on in Gaza, but even in the United States, there's people in dire straits in this country. And the
Yeah.
government's just like business as usual. We're making billion-dollar deals over here. They don't care about the homeless. They don't care about the people suffering from medical situations over here that are, basically being ground down by the system. It's wild, you know?
But they don't care, and you're getting a Qatar jet, and you're telling me,
Yeah.
oh no, that was given to the U.S. government. It's like no, they're saying that Trump can keep it once he leaves office, so therefore that is a personal gift, and Trump
Wow.
requested that. Again, my thing is like if this was Biden or this was whoever, I call out the hypocrisy. Whatever it
Yes.
is. Like I don't care so much about the policy, the politician, the political party. I'm calling out the hypocrisy and I'm bringing it to the forefront because I find that the most humorous thing. You
Yep.
may not get my sense of humor, but that's
And
something I
necessary.
find ironic and I love bringing it to the forefront. And you're telling me all this stuff doesn't matter. The guy's about to have a military day parade as opposed to getting veterans that are homeless off the streets. And that's a 92, $93 million project. Doge, where's your cuts? And for
Yep.
me, it's like, dude, you tell me you care about our military. You only care about the youth right now. And why do you care about the youthful recruits? Because those are going to be the ones you want in your next war, which JD Vance has talked about at a freaking camp,
Yep.
like Hegseth has talked about at a particular camp. You guys are prepping us for war. Why do we want to go to war again? I thought we want to make America great again. Oh, right. Well, America has always been since its inception, except for maybe
Hmm.
about 16 to 20 years here and there, has been at war. So is
Yep.
this when we're great? Is when we're killing other people? And for
Yep.
what? The military industrial complex, the synagogue of Satan? Tell me, what war are we fighting for this time, our dear corporate overlords?
Yeah.
And people don't seem to get it. It's like some of us are over here going, we're done.
Yeah,
I'm
we're
not
done.
picking up my gun for you anymore. I'm done. I'm not justifying putting people on reservations. I'm not justifying another banana war. I'm not justifying another war on terror in my name. I am done consenting to the state, good sir. Please
Yeah.
go away. And they're getting now upset with people like us that are saying, stop telling other people to think like that. Why?
Hmm.
Because that's a conspiracy theory.
Yeah,
No,
because they know they're losing people.
yeah, because
People
this
are
is
pulling
this
away.
is reality, and we're telling people, please stop getting sucker punched every time because it's
Yeah.
starting to hurt my
Please
eyes
wake up. Yeah,
watching this
it's
go
hard
down.
watching you be played over
Yeah,
and over again. And
you're being
yeah,
victimized.
being victimized. And the thing of it is, it's just, especially if you love the people, and we love, I love all people. I just don't want them to get hurt. I don't want them to, I don't, I mean, you're in a relationship with someone who is the most evil people on the planet. Like they do heinous things to people, other people, they'll do it to you. They're only using you temporarily to meet their as an ends to a means to an end, and that's all.
You're being, you're literally being, as you were talking about before with the CIA, you're an asset to them. The same
Yeah.
thing with the Catholic Church they were talking about with Sun Tzu and stuff like that. Is that sometimes even exposing quote unquote or jesting about the Jesuits was part of the joke, even though
Mm,
the Jesuits do have a lot of sway. But it's the fact that you keep bringing it to the forefront and laughing about it, people start going, yeah, right. Why? Because it's like, yeah, we're talking about it and we're even laughing about it because you guys don't seem to get it. Yes, this is the problem because we're
yeah.
laughing about the problem as opposed to doing anything about the problem. And in
Hmm.
contrast, where you and I, we're laughing at the irony, but we're also bringing it to the forefront of saying we got to start talking about this because we
Yeah.
can't keep letting this get by, right?
Mm,
We're talking about it because it's funny because in a spiritual sense, we're over here going, it's so obvious.
yeah.
We okay, so it's kind of like going to a magician and you're over here going, this guy is so bad. I could tell you how he's doing every single trick. It's not even a
Right.
fun illusion anymore. It's literally going, dude, seriously, I know how to freaking tie a balloon and make it into an animal too. This is freaking
Yeah.
good at this point, right? And that's kind of
Yeah.
what we're looking at our culture going, you seriously, why are we wasting our time here? Why are we giving this person our energy, our
Yeah,
time,
they're leading us
investing?
on. It's another dog and pony show, and that's what happened with
Right.
Trump. Because I have a good friend, and she's a believer, and we were talking, and she's like, "What do you think about him?" And that was when well before the election, it was when I definitively told her. I said I'm done with him
Mhm.
because it felt really good because up until that point I was somewhat indifferent and also like, well, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. If he helps, but at that point, I made a firm stand. I'd already made my mind up, but I vocalized it and I made a firm stance and I said, I'm done. I don't care whether I know definitively. It felt so good to plant my flag in the ground and say, this is what I know to be true. And I'll take the consequences if I'm wrong. But I'm no longer, going to hedge my bet. It felt so freeing. You know what it was? It was kind of that cutting of the last shackle that they keep on
Mm.
you of like, you don't want to cut all ties. I'm like, yeah, I do. I'm done with all you people. And even though there was a little bit of scary there, it also felt it was the most freeing thing ever because now I'm done. I'm cut all shackles. I don't need the media to tell me anything. I don't care about anything. I don't need politicians to tell me anything. I don't need movies anymore. I'm done. I don't listen to radio anymore. I'm done. It feels so good.
Dude, it does because it's alleviating because at a certain point you're over here going, I'm man enough to do it myself. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Take a stand.
And that terrifies, again, in relationships, that terrifies them because you're over here going, I don't need your consent or your
Mhm.
definition of what I am to dedetermine who I am. Like, again, we're living
Mhm.
in a world where opinions and
I don't
views,
need your approval.
how
I
many
don't need
followers
your.
you right is it how you gain approval and or elevation in today's society. For me,
Mhm.
it's over here going, no, it's about your personal character and what you're not going to tolerate and what you are going to enforce. And I'm not saying enforce as in law enforcement. I'm saying enforce as in I'm going to do, as for me in my house, we will serve the Lord.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing you should enforce because it's over here going, yeah, I'm at the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. if I don't implement this as a man, or I don't live this character, these sentiments that are laid, or not sentiments, these laws, standards that are laid out in God's word, then I am guilty of complacency, because I am not saying I'm gonna not no, the buck stops here.
Hmm.
As far as where the line starts, again, this when they were rebuilding Jerusalem, when they were coming back from that captivity of Babylon, they were rebuilding the wall. Every person was starting to build it from their own area where their own house was.
Hmm.
So it'd go up twice as fast. But for me, it's like, yeah, and they also had watchmen on the wall to make sure nobody would come and attack them, because they're like, oh, great, they're coming back. So, yes, we kind of have to start building the wall where we're
Yeah.
at behind my
Yeah.
own house to contribute to it to go all the way around the city. Because
Yeah.
if I'm solely saying I only care about the entire city and not where it affects me, right? You're contributed. Your part of the wall is going to connect to your neighbor's part of the wall. And as it
Yep.
keeps going, it starts stacking up because you want to protect everybody that's around you. And this is kind of the beauty of inducting somebody else's from somebody else's family, the bride. You would bring them into your house because then they'd be under your protection, your care,
Hmm.
your family name, right? There's no shame in that, but this is what was building community. Now it's, I don't know, I'm going to be with mom's family or dad's family because there's separation, right?
Yeah.
Or we're getting an epidemic, and it shouldn't. Again, this is somebody else got upset with me. It's an epidemic of leftovers where guys like myself, I'm not sure about your generation so much, I have to basically, you have like a single mom,
Oh,
got
yeah.
2 3 kids. I'm not saying that's bad, but the statistics of a lot of people that I ask out, I'm like, really, another one?
Yeah.
Not that it's bad,
It's
but like
prevalent.
the statistics before is you're widowed, you're this.
Yeah.
I understand once in a while a divorce, but it's become so rampant.
Yeah.
It's like
It's
yikes.
normal.
I as a Christian man want to raise a family semi normally if I can,
Hmm.
but I have to sift through red hats, blue hairs, injected or
Yep.
whatever. And then I have to do the other one that they don't even know what's going on in the world
Yeah.
history. And I'm saying just
Yeah.
basic
The
history.
pool is getting it's narrower.
Right. And it's over here going now, and then the person was getting mad at me when I posted this, and I'm like, you know what? Sorry, you're really not getting this because I'm talking about my peer range, and it
Yeah.
really sucks that this is the only viable options available to me.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's bad, but what I am emphasizing is they're also the ones that leave you unseen.
Hmm.
They're also the ones that seem to think that guys are all the problem in the world, and it's like, no. But I also don't want to share your kids with another guy,
Yeah.
right? Because it's like, okay, you're widowed. I'll be the man that takes over that place. Now it's like he's got to go visit, his real dad on
Yeah.
Saturday.
It adds
Like,
complications.
right. And I don't want to have that complication, because if I'm going to take on that responsibility, I want to take full mantle
Yeah. Yeah.
responsibility, right? And it's not to degrade the other person, but at a certain point, it's like, yes, I will be here because the other person left, and or the other person died, and it is
Yeah.
my honor and its responsibility to care for your well-being as well as your kids' well-being, so that when they go out in the world, they have some ground guardrails, right?
Yeah. Well, and I saw a video the other day, and someone was this guy was talking about how he had married a woman. I think she had three, maybe four, and he was taking the other stance, and he was, which was really bizarre. He's saying, you know, I don't get involved in their life, even though they're in his house. He's like, I don't get involved in it. They're not mine. He was deferring to the woman, and I'm like, wow, that's wild. So even in your own castle, you are not in control of this area. It was super weird to watch, but it's become, some people normalize that. And they're like, yeah, I'm gonna, carve out this little niche and not be the king of the castle in that area. I'm like, oh my gosh, wild, you
Well,
know.
and I think that's, again, like we were saying before. I don't want to get called into HR if I flirt with somebody. It's
Hmm.
become very cubicle, just like with Christianity. Cubicle Christianity. I come in, I check box in, I sit in my little pew, and then I leave.
Yeah.
There's no, I have to go out and disciple somebody next week. I need some food for how I'm supposed to do that. There
Yep.
is no cultivating of, you need to read this book
It's
about to
one
understand.
way, right?
Right.
It's like, here's what you need to, here's your little pellet,
Well, it's
you
it's
know.
it's not even a pellet. It's just it's a dude. It just made me think.
What?
It's like going to the freaking the doctor,
Mm,
and he keeps giving you a pill, but the pill makes you addicted and it's not actually curing you, but you keep going back for the thing. That's the same thing that's happened with a lot of our
yeah,
theology today.
yeah.
Is you keep feeding me the same thing I want to hear,
Convenient,
keep justifying
packaged.
my election choice because I voted for
Yeah,
the lesser of two evils. You keep making me feel good about what I did today,
yeah.
right? And as opposed to making you feel convicted and or once in a while going, wow, it is getting really bad out there. I didn't see this person like that before.
Well,
I didn't see this event like this before.
yeah. What I was thinking about today, is that it's most people have realized government's completely full of BS. Like
Yeah.
they've completely, but what a lot of people and Christians are, they're exploiting Christians' faith, from my opinion. They've
Yes.
supplanted it. They're like, okay, the government psyop is done. Let's supplant it with the Christian and the church psyop, and then many. They did a switch or change, sleight of hand, and now, especially with all the Trumpism and the Christianity and stuff, now Christians are fixated on this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, did you not see the sleight of hand? And many don't, many haven't. It's so weird. Because that's just another mechanism of control. Government was controlling you for decades. Now this Christian, quote unquote Christian psyop, and this, Messiah figure is controlling you. So
Right.
weird.
Or this figure that's supposed to be God's representative.
Yes, the chosen one.
Yeah, it's like, guys, he's not.
So weird.
It's ironic because Antichrist literally means substitute of Christ, and this is the irony, is that that's literally what I'm seeing with this particular individual
Hmm.
or with MAGA. And
Feels
everything
like it.
about it is about materialism. It's love. What does Christ say? My country is not of this world. What does MAGA say?
Make
We have
America
to
great.
make America great again.
Yeah.
So that's emphasizing a country. What is he talking about? Christ is saying, lay up your treasures and things above. We're going to care about your social security, your this, your that, and your wealth, and making our country. It's
Hmm.
it's a dichotomy of one is loving things of this earth, materialism, money, gain,
Yeah.
or that's what their suits saying. That's what they're saying, even though we know where they're trying to harness you for freaking zombie food for
Hmm.
their overlords.
Yeah.
But for us, we're over here going, I don't care about any of this anymore. If anything, the more
Yeah.
you keep telling me to love things down here, the more I'm going, why? I don't
Yeah.
like anything down here. I'm finding everything down here to be hollow, superficial, and fake. The
Yep.
paper towel is supposed to be brown, but you dye it white to make me think it's pure. Same thing with the salt,
Yep.
right? Like there comes a certain point where it's like everything about that you tell me is white and pure and natural is fake. It's phony.
Hmm.
It's not real. And I have the glasses on, and now you're trying to. It's like I'm wearing the glasses. We're sitting in a meeting, and I'm over here going, "You freaking alien serpent thing, whatever the frick you are. I'm not
Yeah.
making a deal with you. I'm not shaking your hand because I see who you really are."
Yep.
And the world is they don't. This is what I don't get, dude. If we are this close to the end,
Hmm.
and people are still advocating voting, legislation, patriotism, fill in the blank.
It's weird.
I truly question if you're a Christian. And I'll say that from the get-go. I
I think that
truly
way too,
question it.
Brendan. Yeah. Well, when I'm glad you said that, because, well, again, as a newer Christian, I look around and I'm like, where's your discernment? And what is going on here? And we talked about this last time, this idea, I was making a joke. I'm like, if government 2000 years ago killed your favorite guy, what are you doing trusting government now or in the future? What are you doing? Like, if you ask, I really want to know the answer to this, because I'm like, you're a, like we talked about, Christian in name only.
Yes.
You're just supplanting a different ruler. It is so weird to me. But
Well,
the
it's in when I'm reading this thing, the early church as the Romans saw them,
mm,
and a lot of the philosophers and whatnot, they'd be looking at this and being like, "Yeah, it's stupid, it's hypocritical," because, and I'm not sure if I told you this last time, but a lot of them were looking at him. I think it was Galen or his dad, and he was saying that a lot of people they're getting into these. schools of philosophy, and then they're accrediting the philosopher, and there's like, well, you wouldn't insult the philosopher, the head philosopher, right? He was perfect in everything in implementing this stuff. And they're like, yeah. So they join the group at a prestige, like going to Harvard or whatnot, and then you have that under your belt, but you actually don't live the philosophy. You're just
Mm,
doing it because it's the pop and the norm, and it's something to put a little cred under your belt, right? Like I know
mm,
I worked with this guy, and now, and that was what they were noticing with Christians, is a lot of them were Christians. They were converts because they moved to a new city. It sounded good. It really was cool, but then it required too much work, and so they left
mm.
it, right? Because it was oh, so again, just like with the philosophy, yeah, he sounds like a nice guy, but actually living it, meh. So you take on the adjective, but you don't actually implement.
Talks the talk, but doesn't
Right.
walk the
You
walk.
don't you don't implement the standards of what
Yes.
is required in said walk. So again, as you just said, a lot of people are taking the adjective of Christian, which is to emulate the anointed one, right? Messiah, Christ,
Hmm.
that's what it means. And you're taking it, but you actually are a churchian because you please me with your lips. You say such things, but you're not doers of the word, like it says in James. Be ye doers of the word and not hearers only.
Hmm.
That's the problem. And when you press people saying you're not actually doing, or you're doing something that's contrary or a snare in the Christian's life, they start getting upset with you. And they're
Sure.
like, well, what? Who, you think you're better than me? Oh, you think you're like the Apostle Paul? Oh, who are you to judge? And it's like, listen, as a
You're like, I'm trying
Christian,
to help you. I'm trying to
yeah,
help you see it.
as a Christian, it's not about saying I'm better than you, but there is moments where you can say, like, see, I don't do that. But so like let's say for somebody like myself, like the mentor said, I fell off the bandwagon, right? And I'm losing.
Yes.
Okay, I lost my way, but as a Christian, let's see, is there any proof there? I've given up all my worldly possessions of wealth, 401k and savings to do what I do.
Hmm.
That is okay, that's one possible
Yeah.
indication. Let's see.
Big
That
one.
any family and friends doing what I'm doing? Yes, most of them. Most of them. I would say about
Hmm.
98%. I have lost everybody. Is
Yeah.
that a sign of ministry? Yes. Does most people hate everything that I advocate? Yeah. Didn't they hate most things that Christ advocated? So again, aligning yourself
Yeah.
with what is in the Bible, which is sounding yourself, right? This is my mentor. I'm telling you, you've got to stop putting up Christmas trees.
Hmm.
You're getting upset with me. Why? Because I'm telling you, because that's not something that should be in a Christian's life. I'm telling you, we shouldn't be voting. You're telling me that's neither here nor there, right? Like
Hmm.
I'm telling you, counterpoints to consider. We need to start getting rid of these things, and you're getting upset with me because then I'm
Yeah.
also saying I question your salvation because you will know them by their fruits. Therefore, I'm seeing your works, and I'm not saying I have to bend your arm and force you to do what I do. What I'm saying is
Hmm.
we have to start implementing some standards, and
Yeah.
whether it's
And
related,
reminding each other.
right? And it's like when I recommend books, he does judge a book by its cover because he looks up the author and then he never bothers to read the book because you've
Yeah.
discredited the author. Well, right? Isn't this what an atheist does with the Bible?
Hmm.
I'm going to discredit the author, so therefore I don't ever have to read the book. Or if you do read the book, you try to find all the problems in the book and you don't try to actually implement the good things that are there.
Hmm.
Like even Muslims acknowledge that Christ was at least a good prophet, right? So there comes a certain point where it's going, okay, guys, you don't have the right to condemn somebody if you're not even living and walking the life
Yeah.
yourself. As where it
Yeah.
goes back into my buddy Stancio, who I offered for the debate with. I'm telling him people aren't following me because I bash Trump. They're following me because they don't do Christmas trees.
Hmm.
We don't do
Well,
left and
because you
right.
speak truth too. You
Right.
don't, and you don't have a problem taking the repercussions of people that are going to be offended by that.
Well, right. I mean, does it hurt once in a while? After, like, yeah, it's like after a couple months, it
Right?
gets
Yeah, you're
but it's
human.
all
Yeah.
I vent it out and then I keep going. Um, but the problem is that a lot of people they're mad at people like you and me because we said, you know what, it's gonna suck, but I'll get up and start doing the journey.
Mhm. Yeah.
Other people are mad at us because they're envious because somehow at a subconscious level, that narcissism level that won't let them let go, they're
Yeah.
saying, I want to start doing that. But
Yeah.
they're afraid because they don't want to take the stones.
Yeah,
They
because
don't
it
want
comes with, yeah, it comes with repercussions and there are costs to the
right.
to that.
Because if you stand up, you stand out, and you're going to have to
Hmm.
start taking the stones. You're going to have to take the heat. You're going to have to start taking the picking up the burden of your own
Hmm.
personal cross and implementing whatever that is where you are at. And a lot of
Mhm.
people don't want to do that.
Well, and what I've tried to allude to this. I don't know whether I've actually vocalized this on my uh, media pages or not, but I try to convey to people like, please consider this isn't a game. Human beings are social creatures. There will be a point in time where there'll be a point of no return,
Yeah.
which will mean like that, like I said, you plant the flag because at some point in time it's going to become more and more ridiculous to say, I was just following orders, or I did what they told me, or I was just following the science. Or it'll be like, what as it flips, because there's a what is this? There's an incredible opportunity and kind of an arbitrage kind of thing. Like if you know and because you have discernment and you've done research and you've gathered all the data. This is why I appreciate your work so much. It's like here are infinite reasons why I believe this. And anyone can adopt those by reading your content and getting your information and go, okay, that's the intel. I'm going to apply the intel to my life and go, okay, as a social creature, we're all connected. I'm going to plant my flag here and wait for people to come there. Like it's a land grab, really, what it is. But there will be a point in time when the people that are laggards that don't pick up on the information, that society will ostracize them and say, look, you either didn't because you're intellectually unable to do this, in which case you're a danger to yourself and others, or you wouldn't because you were too scared to let go of
Yeah.
the government or your religion, and you're a danger to yourself and others. We love you, we'll be a place for you, but you cannot be in a position of status in this new world. You
Thank
are
you.
dangerous because you're a sheeple. That's what makes me mad, you
Well,
know?
thank you, dude. That's eloquently said. You're we're a problem because we're over here saying I don't have to sit to the pulpit guy to tell you what I think about
Yeah,
theology.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
you're a heretic. You're a false teacher. Go away. I don't have to sit and listen to a pundit to tell me what to think about my culture. How dare you? You know, I don't have to sit here and go to a Trump rally and or whatever and tell you what I think about my politics. At a certain point, I'm saying I'm done with all of that. And whereas you just brought out, they're wanting people to conform. We're over here saying no. We want people to convert,
Yeah.
right? Be transformed by the
And
renewing of your mind.
detach from this
Yeah,
world. All the BS, the politics, the
right. And,
celebrity.
and scary because of somebody like yourself, if you at least you have discernment, and it's probably because you understand the evil that you can at least understand
That's why,
Christianity.
yeah. When I
You
saw the
also are over
period,
here looking, going, yeah, this is kind of stupid because the vast majority of Christianity, they're brainwashed. Orthodox defend their adjectives, Catholics defend their adjectives, denominations, they're all defending their stupid adjectives.
yeah.
When you tell them what like the cross is a pagan symbol, they're over here like they're right there, but the comment, and it's over here like no, you're defending things you don't even know about, right?
Mhm.
Forgive them, Father, they know not what they do. You don't even understand what this means. Spiritually speaking, they put it in our realm to play with, like the bad guys want us to do it so they can possess us. And Christ is over here going,
Mhm.
I'm showing you the symbol is evil, and this is why I bring it before the throne of God in Hebrews 12:2. But most of you people, you start worshiping the symbol, the emblem, the
Yeah.
insignia, as opposed to submitting to Creator God.
Mhm.
Or you celebrate the politician, the tradition, and or the holiday or whatever, as opposed to submitting to God. You keep putting a substitute before him. So when somebody like me is coming over and saying, yeah, that's a form of idolatry, then you get mad at me because
Yeah.
I'm telling you it's a form of idolatry. And if it wasn't, it wouldn't irk you so much when I tell you it's exactly what it is. Because only an idol triggers emotions, right? That is what that's ultimately what it is you put your emotional thinking, right? That please your heart is going to be before your mind is set on God, right? So if your heart is substituting something of this world or earthly, temporary, whatever, what have you, person, place, or thing, before God, then you're not going to understand anything else that we're saying. And this is why I can't support, follow Wes Huff, follow this guy, follow this one. I'm over here saying, stop following Apollo or Paul or whatever, as they were saying in the New Testament. It says, stop saying, I'm of this guy, I'm of that guy. Start living the word. Stop worshiping the person that's telling you it or trying to give you context and clarity to live it. That's the problem, is that Protestant priests, we're still doing, oh, it's all in Latin, it's all foreign to me. I can't speak and read it for myself. but I'm going to trust somebody else to interpret it and explain it to me because I don't have the time to ability to do it myself. Ah.
Yeah, yeah. Wild, Brandon. Lots of good stuff. Lots of good stuff. I always enjoy conversations with you about these
Likewise.
events. Uh, Before we wrap up, tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, Mana Daily Podcast, Spotify, Rumble, YouTube, and if you can, Patreon under the same name. And then Krollology, KROLL lower underscore 101 on Instagram, if you can find me. If that's what you're saying to Mark, I'm dead serious. I'm thinking maybe about another year and a
Yeah.
half, and then I'm pretty much done. And I think they're gonna kick us off around that time anyway, so it's just as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's becoming, it's becoming pretty crazy. And then the people who want to get out will get out and have been on the path will get off the path and move on. But some people they'll ride this. It's talking about the Titanic. They'll ride it all down, all the way down. You know.
All the way down to the depths until it explodes like a freaking
Uh,
submarine. So
Exactly.
Mark, you want to tell people where they can find you on my stuff?
Sure, absolutely. I'm gmarkphillips.com and everywhere on social media at gmarkphillips, YouTube, Odyssey, all the social platforms.
All
So
right.
thanks, Brandon.
Likewise, then. Thanks for having me on. Until next time, folks.